All right, welcome in. It is, I always have to look at my watch because I don't know what day it is for some reason. Senior Moments here. Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon U. He is Olin Buchanan, and I am David Nuño. Good morning, OB.
Good morning.
That is a very Cuban guayabera.
I got married in this.
Did you really?
I did.
No wonder I like you so much.
Yeah.
It's a quality shirt.
I didn't need no
tuxedo.
You know, it was the wife's idea. She said, just put on some khaki pants and this nice guayabera. And now she had on a white dress. But yeah, I got married in this.
I'm going to do for my daughters whatever they want when they get married, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they want. But I've already started giving them the thought process like, it's a lot of money for somebody else to enjoy the party.
Yeah, you know.
It could be a lot of money towards your new house if we do something a little bit smaller.
I don't get it. What? I guess girls grow up and I'm supposed to have this huge day and everything, and then they're so mental about it that any little thing could go wrong that they don't enjoy it. I know Robert Cessna, the Eagle, he had two daughters, and he told me that when they were babies, every day his daughters, he'd pick them up and whisper into their ear, "Elope, elope."
So, OB, let's start off with some Aggie news out there.
Sir.
And I hope Kennedy Kevin, I'm not stealing her first hit, but 6 Aggies getting preseason accolades from all SEC teams. They're from the coaches. First team. Anaya Smith.
All purpose.
By the way, we haven't said his name on 23 and 23. I wonder if he's going to be one of the top 3. Second team, Nick Constantinu.
Okay.
McKinley Jackson.
Yeah.
We haven't said his name yet either. No. Interesting. Damani Richardson. We said his name yesterday.
Just recently, yeah.
Evan Stewart. Haven't said his name either.
But you know, Evan Stewart, we haven't said his name, but didn't we talk earlier, like at SEC Media Days, and he doesn't make the top 3? Yeah. And you're like, do you guys not even pay attention?
Do you not watch
There's
ball?
no way that this is not one of the 6 best receivers in the SEC. Well, the coaches are obviously paying attention.
Coaches watch film. And then third team, Layden Robinson.
Okay.
So
there's a lot of good guys out there that's not been mentioned.
A lot, yeah. But those guys definitely deserving. And I think where they're at is fair.
Let me ask you something.
I'm going to answer you something.
Okay. Name me somebody that you think, just 1 or 2 guys that you think may be all SEC by the end of the year that hasn't already been mentioned.
So somebody on this list that could be
that's
all
not on this list.
First, second, third team, or just first team?
First or second team.
Okay, let's kind of go through it. Bryce Foster.
Okay.
Could be.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jake Johnson, potentially?
I guess.
I mean,
Brock Bowers and
third team-ish?
There's the guy at LSU. So, yeah, third team-ish.
Third team-ish. Would I believe one of the running backs? Maybe not, because it's committee.
Did I say Blake or Brock?
Brock Bowers.
I did say Brock. Okay.
Yeah. On the defensive side, I mean, have your pick. Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, Walter. One of those guys, right? Like, absolutely one of those guys could be on there. Linebackers.
Bryce Anderson.
Oh, Bryce Anderson would be on there as well. Yeah. One of the new cornerbacks potentially. Yeah. All right. Josh DeBerry, Tony Grimes, Tyreek Chappelle. Hello.
Yeah.
I left him off. There's a few names that are under consideration.
I got one more.
Okay, give it to me.
Randy Bond.
Your word is your bond, OB.
You know, he missed
good.
He missed like 3 field goals last year, maybe 4. One of them was 50+ against Arkansas. Okay, you know, he makes those, but those are low percentage.
Yep.
2 were in the ghastly rain against UMass, and the other one was the block that never should have been because the guy was way off sides against Mississippi State. The rest of the time, that guy was money.
He was money. Yeah, it's a good one, OB. Good one. People need to watch his film. Let me ask you, is it fair to think A&M could still potentially have a culture problem?
Potentially. There's always potential for anything.
Anywhere, right?
I feel like A&M.
I have a reason why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah, I know. I feel like A&M, I like to think, and the way the guys are talking and the way we hear, because we're not there, but I like to think they've kind of taken out the trash.
Let me ask you a question, because you asked me what I'm going to ask you.
Yeah,
do losing teams have a good culture typically? Typically?
Probably not.
Okay. Like,
I think you can have guys that are good. They're just not talented.
Sure, but when you lose a lot,
yes,
and you're used to winning, okay, let me throw that out there. It's very hard to have a good culture because it becomes easy to want to miss a rep or miss a practice because the grind of the season, it's just not that important anymore. When you're really, really good, right, and you haven't reached the pinnacle, like I'm not talking about teams that have won championships that I can understand why they have a drop back in production, but teams that are chasing that carrot, it is a lot easier to go in early to work. It's a lot easier to stay longer. It's a lot easier to put in that extra effort and that extra rep. When you lose, it's easy to point fingers, right?
Especially when you've been good, like you said before.
Yeah. And even if you're not, like, there's always some one or two people that can ruin the culture of a group. You could have an overall really good culture and hopefully some strong veterans, and this is in any work environment. If we worked here at TexAgs and there were people that were just sour apples all the time, it could spoil the good work that we do here. It could. So the reason I bring that all up, David Pollack, who used to be on ESPN, right?
Yeah.
College Game Day.
And I liked him, by the way.
I still like him.
Yeah.
He had some comments on Greg McElroy's podcast about A&M, and he's got some questions about the culture still. I want you to listen to it. I understand where he's coming from. He doesn't have the benefit, before we listen to it, of being as close as we are.
Right.
So I can understand it from far away. But I think if you do a little research on this topic, you'll be like, oh, they've taken out some of the issues. Oh, they've identified it. So listen to David Pollack there with Greg McElroy.
I can't trust A&M. The way the culture was so bad, when you literally bring in all those 5 stars and all those guys that have such a great class, and your culture can't accept it, that says something about your culture. When you bring in Bobby Petrino and you still can't announce whether he's calling plays like already, I mean, there's already that little dynamic that I don't trust the offense and the structure and what they are until you show me, and especially with the culture.
All right, a couple things he says there. I've said it on this show, I can totally understand not trusting the offense until you show me. I can understand that. I can also totally understand why I think this team's going to average 34 points a game. And I can give you reasons, right? As for the culture, a lot of the culture guys that we knew during the time that they were here have moved on, right?
Right.
And a lot of them who moved on
were a problem wherever they went.
And where they went, they're either gone, or they're riding the bench, third team.
Right.
So that identifies a bunch of the problem. Also, have we not heard, and again, it's just words at this point, have we not heard from pretty much every player that's come in here for stacked interviews, oh, there's a different focus this year?
That's true.
Now, the teams say that, and it's not always true. They are dressing the same way. They're holding each other accountable. They're saying it out loud. If they're saying it out loud, I'm going to believe them at their word until they prove me otherwise, that they're applying it at practice. The real question is when they hit adversity. Just like with play calling that people keep bringing up with Bobby and Jimbo. I have no reason to think it's not going to work. They've given me no reason. I'm going to go on their track record. Jimbo Fisher has been a winning head coach 90% of his career. Bobby Petrino has been an elite offensive play caller his entire career. So why am I automatically going to say doom and gloom just because talking heads can't imagine that they have some kind of partnership that was agreed upon beforehand?
Yeah. But look, I'll give Pollack a break here. He's saying there's this based on what he's seen. I assume that he's not been in College Station, like you said, or talked to people. He's probably not subscribing to Stacked to listen to all those interviews. I think he should too.
Great idea.
I don't think we should give him a free one, but if he wants to pay.
I don't think we can.
Yeah, well, free access. But if, come on, pay. That'd be great. We'd love to have you.
And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd appreciate it if you would. So all those things, A&M, look, just go out and win, move the ball, all those things, answers all the questions. Now, as far as the Petrino, yes, Jimbo, like it or not, he caused a lot of doubt and question by he for a while refused to acknowledge that Bobby Petrino was going to be in control of the offense, calling plays. And one time he said everybody's going to, right?
Yep.
And if you're from the outside, people are going to see that. And so to come back and say they shouldn't say that, what do they know? Well, this is what the damn coach said. Now, since then, Jimbo has made it clear that Bobby, I guess starting with the Feinbaum interview, that Bobby Petrino was going to be calling the plays.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing about Pollock. If it had not been since mid-July that Jimbo finally said yes, he's going to call plays and made it clear, Pollock sounds like he quit reading or listening, in June.
So I'm going to use my kids here as an example in two different ways. First off, I have a daughter, Annalise, who, if she's wearing a teal light blue shirt, and I say to her, like your shirt, right?
Yeah.
I say to her, it's blue. She would say, no, it's not. It's teal. Okay. Yeah, sweetie, but it's in the blue family. No, it's teal. She can't, separate the two when she argues with me. Like, no, it's not blue, Dad. It's this. Jimbo, I think, answers questions like that sometimes. And what I mean by that is, in his mind, he's like, it's always a collaboration. There isn't one play caller. We're talking to the running backs coach. We're talking to, and we're all coming up with a decision together. And then the offensive play caller, I'm just saying that's how I think he answers questions.
And people who are listening to that are getting the message that, wait a minute, you got 40 seconds to call a play.
Right.
And you're going to be involved, and this guy's going to be in, that's BS. There's not going to be this collaboration on who's going to call play on 3rd and 4.
But he knows his headsets, and he knows that this conversation is always going. The other thing is, sometimes when I parent, I do this too much. And Elizabeth will bring it up to my attention. I bring up stuff that they've done wrong before they've done it wrong again, right? So I'll be like, you remember, you haven't been cleaning up your room, and they've been cleaning up their room recently. But Thursday of last week, they didn't. Hey, I don't want to find socks on the floor. Dad, I haven't had socks on the floor in 2 weeks. What are you talking about? It's like this with Jimbo. Jimbo addressed the issues, and we keep bringing it up like he's got to fail first.
Well, my point is with Pollock, again, if he had had that comment before the Feinbaum interview, then I would say it's very justified to say that. Since then, Jimbo, I think, has been very clear that Bobby Petrino is going to be calling the plays. Yeah. So then he comes back and says, well, I don't know if they're going to – well, maybe you need to, read something, get updated on what's going on.
Well, I'm sure there's a bunch of MBWs out there, message board warriors, that are not going to go after David Pollock for his opinion. Look, I can't get mad at a dude for an opinion, and I can't get mad at a dude for not having the information that we get as TexAgs subscribers, right? We get some intel that they're not getting. It is our job to help spread the truth.
To me, that just is going to make it much sweeter when it works.
Yeah, it does.
And if it doesn't work, well, then guys like Pollock have some credence to what they're saying. But when it works, then you get to taunt and gloat. And, I don't like to do that, but let's face it, taunting and gloating, it's as much as college football as the band.
If you all want to be a part of the conversation, you can call us or text us 979-693-1150, 979-693-1150. Let's check in. But eventually when we move into this new studio, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say beyond the glass, behind the glass. I'm going to have to come up with it. I don't know if there's going to be glass.
Where's the freaking glass?
There's a glass right here?
Yeah, but nobody's behind it.
No, but to the viewer, I'm looking this way.
Oh, okay.
See? Because I'm looking at the camera. But it's actually over here. Did you guys know that? By the way, I'm just curious.
Behind the wall?
Put on the chat, on the text. You know that actually when I look this way and talk to Nick, he's actually over there. Did you guys know that? Comment below.
Behind a concrete wall, yeah. But I can see y'all through the glass on the TV, or I guess it's not glass. It's probably plastic. But, I'm looking at y'all through the glass, but you can't see me at all.
You look very good in that new light, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really cool. Instead of having to get up and turn it on and off, I can just off. On. Fancy, right? We're going places around here.
Did you do that?
Dalton helped me, of course. He helps me with everything, but, it's his idea.
All right.
Dalton's kind of the jack of all trades, isn't he?
Absolutely.
He does it all. You should have seen him, mopping up the other day and painting the TexAgs sign. The guy does, he's what was the guy's name? Romano on, there was a sitcom back in the day. It'll hit me in a minute. You'll know the guy with a mustache. Kind of looks like Luke a little bit.
No. You're talking about Schneider.
Schneider.
On One Day at a Time. Romano was the name of the lady.
That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
I got it all confused.
He's the super.
Yeah, Schneider. He was a good dude. All right, Nick, I know that means nothing to you. Continue on, please.
Yeah, well, just kind of go into that conversation about, Bobby Petrino and all that and stuff. And I'm not calling y'all out here, but I'm so ready for us to be able to talk about an actual game and not speculate on all this. Again, hopefully we get a good offensive performance so we can just say, okay, Jimbo was right all along. But it's crazy to me how that one talking point just absolutely took over the narrative around A&M.
Because there's nothing else to talk about.
And I know what you're going to say, OB. It's kind of, Jimbo didn't help his cause very much, but
beyond
still.
that, it is one of the 1 or 2 or 3 top storylines in all of college football this year.
Well, let me tell you both this. If they didn't have this to talk about, then people would be saying A&M's 10-2. I'm telling you, if you didn't have this thing to point at, the culture and the offensive play calling, then you'd be like, oh, this team is fantastic. They're going to win the West. Because that's the only thing holding them back. It's the offense and the culture. They got to stop the run, too. But you see where I'm going.
But that's going to be the talking point for everybody that's not right here for A&M. Because I've done the national the national writer job.
Yeah.
So what you do is you don't know all the minor details about every team. You can't. You know what's the major
talking points
issue for the team and the major issue for A&M.
For instance, if I talk to you about Auburn, we know that Hugh Freeze has a certain track record in the past. Mm-hmm. We know that Peyton Thorne was an okay quarterback at Michigan State. We don't study them. We study them, and as the season develops, we'll know much more. But there's only so much we know about Auburn because we're not there. We're not insiders.
Right. I know, like I said before, their offensive line, including tight end, looks like a group of 5 all-star team.
Yep.
And they're having to replace some really good players on defense.
No.
I hear their receivers leave a lot to be desired.
So we're way late for a break, and I would love to check in with our friend Kennedy Cavan, but we're going to do that on the other side because, you know what, I'm not here to have fights with people, right?
No.
I'm just not. Yeah.
In fact, I like to rather build bridges with people that I disagree with.
You like to break bread?
Break bread or
break potatoes?
Break potato, break barbecue.
Do you break barbecue?
Sometimes I break it off in my mouth when I take a big bite.
Barbecue is one of the foods that I think it's okay.
But I don't have to break it out.
You don't have to use forks at a barbecue place, right? No. Even for the veggies.
Sometimes the barbecue just melts in your mouth.
Oh, gosh. Are we talking about a particular place?
I'm talking about Fargo's.
It's good.
Oh, man, it's so good. I've had that. I always talk about the rib tips, but I've had their chopped beef, and it's not just good. It's spectacular.
Yeah?
Yeah, and talk about melting in your mouth. It's like meat M&Ms.
I think you could use a different example.
Because it melts in your mouth.
Oh, I see where you're going there. Yeah. What else melts in your mouth? I probably shouldn't ask.
Fargo's ribs.
Fargo's ribs melt. Yep, the tips. And also, today's Wednesday, which means they have.
You can get the chopped beef on a baked potato. Talk about melting in your mouth.
And beef ribs.
And who doesn't like beef ribs?
Vegans.
In fact, if Pollock was here, I'd say, look, let's go argue. Let's go discuss this.
Let's have a conversation.
Some some beef ribs at Fargo.
And you'd probably go to Bryan, right?
Yeah, of course.
1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan?
Yeah.
Without a doubt, the what?
Without a doubt, the best barbecue in the freaking world.
How do you spell freaking? Are you F-R-I-G-G-I-N or freaking?
I say freaking.
I-N-G, yeah.
E-A-K.
I-N-G.
I-N apostrophe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of East Texas in me.
That's their trademark, right?
Because it's true.
It's Fargo's. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at
C&C Creations.
That is correct. He's Olin Buchanan.
I am. You're David Nuño.
Thank you, sir.
You know who that is?
That is Kennedy Cavan at the News and Social Center, which is presented by, presented by the Angry Elephant. Looking for a place to unwind and enjoy great drinks and food? Look no further than the Angry Elephant. The patrons live by the slogan, like your politics, love your bar.
I like that place, by the way.
I know.
Trust me,
I know you do. I know you do. They know, you have your name on a plate there when you go there.
I don't but you know what? They
take care of you.
They know me and my wife especially.
Yeah, of course
they know what she drinks.
Well, you're Olin Buchanan. You're a big deal.
That was a pretty bad elephant, though. I was trying.
Oh, that's what it was. I
had too much.
I thought it was like a New Year's celebration, like that.
That's an elephant makes it, and then, of course that's the trunk. All right, moving on.
I don't know what I just heard. Kennedy.
Hey guys.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good to see you. Good, great smile. I love that.
Thank you. Obi was making me laugh with his elephant. I think yesterday you did a horse.
Do you like elephants?
Elephants
Who doesn't
are scary.
like elephants?
Elephants are scary.
I don't think I want to hang out with them.
Aren't those the animals that they don't forget anything? Isn't that the thing about
Allegedly,
elephants?
yes.
Allegedly.
They're like a wife.
Oh, God. I don't have one of those, so I would not know.
The one-liners. We should have like a sponsor behind Obi's one-liners. That one-liner brought to you by. Got one for us?
I don't know.
All right, Ms. Cabin. I know the Inconvenient Pothole had a comment.
Yeah, the Inconvenient Pothole did have a comment on the YouTube chat. They said, y'all are seeing what you want to see. The guys always carry themselves this way outwardly and say the right things.
It's true. And I've never heard a coach, a player in August say, oh, yeah, we're a train wreck. Everybody's mad at each other. I hate those guys. That's true.
All right. But my response to that is, with my eyes, not just words, when I go to practice, I actually commented the day after the first practice something that I noticed. The players were making a concerted effort, each rep, to high-five each other. There's something going on there. That may not mean a big deal, but I can tell it's now part of the culture. Hey, we've got each other's back. We're holding each other certain accountable, and I got you. And look, it may not matter if they lose 2-3 games in a row, right? That culture goes. That's why I say it's culture. A lot of it is, are you winning and are you holding each other accountable? Because if you're losing, then it becomes hard. If you're winning, you know what? It's worth doing the extra rep. You know what? This quarterback, I like him. He's throwing me the touchdowns. I got his back. Quarterback starts missing you a lot, then it's easy to be like, can you get me the ball?
I remember the Auburn game. I think it was 2020, and Devon A-Chain had a long run, and somebody hit him from behind, and he didn't know that they were there, and he fumbled. Inside the 10. It looks like they're about to score.
Yep.
And, he gets up, and he's, despondent because that touchdown is going to nail down the game. And DeMarvin Leal, Michael Clemens, several other guys coming on, all went straight to Devon. And you can see him pat him on and say, we got this. Don't worry about it. We got it. And they did. And that was an example of great team chemistry. Now, we really won't know for sure that they're going to have that chemistry until the season starts and it continues. However, like you said, the indicators are there.
Yeah. We may be wrong. We may be so right? Like, that's with everything in life. Nick Saban probably doesn't have many culture issues, right? Because typically his bad years, he wins 10 games. If he has a year where he wins 7, is the culture, can we blame the culture? Potentially, we can, right? By the way, winning teams have culture issues too. They just have enough strong personalities. That's why I love older dudes in programs. Because older dudes in programs have survived the 2-3 year test of being there. They know how business is done. They can set an example. And I think, like, in journalism, there are probably old school journalists that you learned from. You could probably learn from some new dudes, right? But the ones that the Ceases of the world and the
Kurt Bowles,
right? When you were coming up, you learned from them.
Yes, absolutely.
Had you learned from somebody your same age who had maybe been there a couple months longer, just a couple months, it might have worked out. But there's not that same veteran leadership there. Somebody who's written 1,000 columns on X, Y, and Z.
That basically tells you how to, or shows you how to conduct yourself and
Correct.
how to approach your job. How to be a college football player.
Yeah. Let's go back to Kennedy Caffin there at the News and Social Center, brought to you by the Angry Elephant, as I use this whisper voice. Kennedy?
Hey, do you want me to give you my news and notes now?
Yes.
I think you don't even have to ask. You just give us some news and notes.
Okay. Texas A&M track and fields, I don't know how to pronounce his first name. I'm going to try it. Shamir Little qualified first overall for the women's 400-meter hurdles final on the 4th day of the World Athletics Championship at the National Athletics Center. Thought that was pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Go A&M. We have volleyball traveling to play Omaha and Pepperdine this weekend at the Omaha Invitational. And then soccer versus Baylor on Saturday at 8 p.m.
Fish camp game. Looking forward to
Fish camp game.
I love the copycat there. I like it.
Yeah.
Johnny 2 times.
Johnny 2 times. I'm going to go get the papers. Get the papers.
Is it Johnny? I think it's Johnny 2 times,
That was
right?
Johnny 2 times.
Yeah.
Get the papers. Get the papers.
Casino was on TV the other day.
Yeah. Good show.
Really good or good?
I think it was really good.
Yeah, I think it's really good too.
I think just the scene where Joe Pesci gets it,
Oh,
I think that makes the whole movie.
spoiler alert.
Well, I didn't say what happened.
I know.
I said he gets it.
I'm still
I
shocked.
didn't say what he got.
I'm still shocked that you have not watched
Heat.
Heat. I'm so shocked by that. It almost hurts my heart a little bit because
I got enough heat right now just going in and out, just going outside.
it is so hot out there. OB, as I look for my copy of my next sponsor, it could be, this spot could be for you,
Okay.
but it's for thousands of people listening right now.
Thousands of people have like shoulder problems.
How do you guess these things? It's like we've been working together for 15 years.
Yeah, but when you say me specifically, I'm a guy that, has a lot of aches and pains.
Shoulder,
Shoulder, for sure.
hip,
Not yet, but it's probably coming.
it's coming. It's coming, bro.
Everything else is hurting.
Back.
Oh, back for sure.
Do people tell you steroids are your only option? I don't think they do, but if they do.
You know what? Sometimes I'd say if steroids was the option, sure, whatever it takes, because, it's so much pain.
Well, hopefully we can help you get that away with QC Kinetics that makes that pain go away with their all-natural advanced regenerative medicine. They're helping people here every day with these amazing treatments that restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. It's like turning back the clock. Regenerative medicine uses concentrated healing agents from your own body to stimulate that damaged tissue in your joints so they can work like they're supposed to, and there's zero downtime. You go in, you come out, OB.
Sounds like a quick cure from QC.
QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in this exciting medical breakthrough. Patients here getting lasting relief and are saying no to surgery and no to drugs. If you've got pain due to injury or arthritis, this is a remarkable option that you need to check out. And the consultation is absolutely free. 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. We're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. Their headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station, but they take care of everybody. They got your back. They're all over the United States. They've got 45 offices here in the great state of Texas. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center because Kennedy Cavan's got another one for us. She's got a bunch of text messages this morning, but we got to get to 23 and 23 here in a moment.
Yeah, everyone is really excited about texting in today, apparently. I don't think I've ever been here and gotten so many text messages.
I think you have.
Maybe not.
It's football season. The intensity changes.
So true. David in Temple said, are local guys privy?
Privy?
Privy. Privy to a lot of information focus national guys don't have, or are they surrounded by trees and can't see the entire forest? Thank goodness September 2nd is close.
How about both?
I think local guys are privy to more information because they're just there every day.
Right.
Now, sometimes a coach caters to the national guys.
Yeah.
But in most cases, the local guys know more than what's going on. In fact, it's the
national
guys call the local guys.
Yeah, they call us all the time. Yeah. And by the way, when I'm trying to get information for a report here on the show on Florida, I'll call a Florida
from Florida beat writer.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also understand being too close and not being able to see what others see from far away.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that happened to me. First off, nobody in the world predicted what happened last year. Nobody. I mean, you can't. Because the national guys were all predicting A&M as a top 10 team anyway.
They were number 6 coming into the year.
But I remember my gut talking to me last year, not expecting 5 and 7, but telling me there's a lot of young players on this team. There's not enough, that offensive line is young. There's some young, and I remember hearing that, but thinking the talent overall would outweigh the inexperience. And it has remolded. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I look at things differently now when it comes to young players. I want to use young players when they earn their time. And there have been plenty of guys that have earned their time to get on the field early. But I want our older guys to hold that spot as long as they can.
Well, we didn't know that there was going to be 34 players miss multiple games with injuries either. And one of those guys, might have really helped. We'll talk about it a little later. Might have really helped in the run defense.
Can we do that right now?
Well, that's up to you.
I thought that was a great segue, my friend.
Okay.
Like, it's almost like you read the rundown, knew what we were going to talk about. Like, that's impressive, young man.
Well, just thanks for calling me young. I haven't been called that in years.
I was about to start calling you Guayabera, but we'll just call you Olin Buchanan here. Time for 23 in 23, presented by The Charge Apparel. Aggie owned and operated premier polos in the United States. 12% of total sales are donated to organizations supporting veterans and mental health initiatives. Visit them at thechargeapparel.com or find them on Instagram at The Charge Apparel or on Twitter, The Charge Brand. Number 3, McKinley Jackson.
Yep, Mount McKinley Jackson.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. He's a first rounder. No,
and he's nasty.
He's nasty. Look, here's the facts. The rush defense obviously struggled last year. They were significantly better when he was healthy and back in the lineup.
Without a doubt. I mean, he's your best interior lineman, and he played. He got a cup of coffee, I guess, in the Miami game. So, but essentially, he didn't play the first 5 games of the season, and then I think they used him very sparingly against UMass. So, essentially, he played half the season.
Yep.
And when he played, get this, he got no tackles against Miami, and Massachusetts. When he, I think he barely even played. I think he just might have stepped on the field, and then was completely out of 4 games. So in half the games, an interior lineman, he had 37 tackles in half the games. Now, I'm not saying that if he'd played all 12 games, that 37 turns into 74, but understand in a given year, 37 tackles for a interior lineman is a very solid, even impressive total. As you start getting around 40, that's very productive. He did it in 6 games.
Yep.
This is how active this guy is. You know what? He had 7 tackles for losses in essentially 6 games. Big time player. And they missed him last year. And had he been able to play at the beginning of the year, A&M, I feel comfortable to saying they might have won another game or 2 because their run defense probably would have been a little bit better.
So I spoke to a scout when I was in Nashville, and he told me, and by the way, the coaches are backing this up if you look at the all-SEC team. So right now, by the way, if you Google McKinley Jackson NFL draft, he's listed anywhere between a 3rd and a 4th rounder. But he's the kind of guy with health.
Yes.
Is a riser, right? And he's a guy that scouts have he could be a guy that if he has a full season of the ability that we've seen in a short sample set last year, he could be one of those guys that gets into that first round. Go ahead, you were going to say.
No, he could. A&M hadn't had an interior lineman taken in the first round since Ty Warren. I wouldn't bet on it because, again, he's got to show he can stay healthy.
Yep.
But, man, he's so good. He's so active. There are plays I remember last year where here's this huge guy, and he's making plays out on the perimeter, chasing guys down. And he can rush the passer, real good bull rush up the middle. I mean, I don't know what you're looking for in a defensive tackle interior lineman that McKinley Jackson isn't, other than, man, I just need him to be there for 12 games.
Well, and stats don't always tell the story of an interior lineman.
It's true.
So, like, when we watch a game, don't expect, like, these plays that, like, jump out at you, like an interception or a big sack, or, like, the ones that fans, like, remember. But coaches sure remember how he plugged up that hole and how he made the game-saving tackle or whatever he may do. So Matt Miller from ESPN, he had an article, I don't know, about a month ago, where he asked 15 scouts who they believe are the big prospects that are underrated going into the NFL draft. And he had McKinley as one of the people. And he says, from a scout who covers the Texas market, the first thing you notice is his explosiveness. There's so much power generated off the snap. He's hard to handle one-on-one. And if you talk to coaches down there, they'll tell you that the O-line is struggling to contain him, that there's a veteran interior line down there. And if he's doing that at practice, watch out what he does in games.
I just want to add one more thing. Justin Metabike in 2019 had 45 tackles. 45 tackles in 13 games. So that's 8 more than McKinley Jackson had in basically six
games.
games. And Justin Madubuike was a third-round pick.
2022 stats, excuse me. The 37 tackles Obi talked about, the 7 tackles for a loss, the 2 sacks, the 1 fumble recovery, and 1 block kick in those 8 games.
And he's just a producer. And again, you say 8, but there was 2 games where I think he was just he really didn't play. I mean,
right.
you have to mark him down as playing, but he wasn't out there very long.
Once he came in the game, you look at Pro Football or Focus, whatever that site's called, at the numbers. And look, they still gave up a lot of rushing yards. I recognize that. But he made such a difference. He plugs up the hole. He gets to the QB. He makes life very miserable for opposing offensive lines. And if he stays healthy, and by the way, he's not the only one on the O-line, on the defensive line, right? I mean, we expect Walter to have a big year as well. So there's you pair him up with those others, he's going to even be more disruptive.
I think so. And again, if he's healthy, A&M has a big time player right in the middle.
Yep.
Right in the middle of that defense.
So yesterday, OB, and that is 23 and 23, brought to you by the Charge Apparel. Yesterday, several teams named their starting quarterback.
Yes, they did.
We're still waiting for A&M to name theirs, but I'm just going to throw you some names that I remember that popped up yesterday. There was more, but here's some names. Haynes King named the starter at Georgia Tech. Yep. DJU named the starter at Oregon State. No surprise there.
No.
Jaden Rashada named the starter at Arizona State, and that's partially because Drew Pine is injured and hasn't practiced since early August. If you remember, Rashada was supposed to go to Florida. He was the big old NIL thing, be the game changer for Billy Napier.
Okay, yeah, he's the freshman then.
He's the freshman,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
So
Yeah,
as of right now, he's the starter. We'll see when Drew Pine is back if he will earn that spot as he expected to have it. But a couple names that DJU had success at Clemson. Haynes, I think, struggled.
Not really, but okay.
He had a little success. Not the success that they wanted. Haynes did not live up to what we were expecting here. I'm hoping a new system for him works out. It's the ACC. It's different.
It is different. But I absolutely wish Haynes King the best. I hope he's very successful there. He's a nice guy. He's from Longview, Texas, back in my neck of the woods, my old stomping ground. So I'm going to root for him. But let's be honest now. He's won more quarterback competitions than he has games. Now, 3-2.
Wow.
But it's not going to be quite the same in the ACC. And, guys get better. Kellen Mond was a better quarterback as a senior far and away than he was as a junior.
Remind me what the conversation on this show was leading into that 2020 season when it came to Kellen.
Well, best of my recollection, it was always about potential. And, he's it was always like, he's good, but he can be better. He's got to take better care of the ball. If the opportunities to run, take them. You have, go for the layups.
He did take care of the ball that year. He did. He was awesome.
He did a lot better.
Was it 19-1?
I think he had 3 interceptions.
19-3?
Yeah, and there might have been a couple of fumbles, which was always a big problem for him, but they were early.
Yeah. All right, let's hit a break. When we come back, we'll get to some of these text messages. Also, I know you didn't watch it because I know you. There was a little press conference yesterday in the world of combat sports.
No, I didn't see it.
And it got a little crazy.
A
little crazy. A little, I'm sure, Don King-esque performance, but it got a little cray-cray. So
we had some double shock power?
Well, there was some tables being turned.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
Some tables being turned. But
like A&M's going to be turning the tables on everybody this year.
Turning the table on everybody, buddy. Heritage Film Time. Chance McClain's company. They make documentary films about families. That's the coolest part about it, right? You can do a documentary on your entire family, right? Invite them over for Thanksgiving, have them as an eye in the sky, getting video, being with you, 2-hour documentary done where he interviews several members of the family. You can tell your family story. Just a cool thing to have. You can have them focus on one person too. Your father, your uncle, your grandfather, yourself, your kiddos. Like there's different things that he can do. And then he does these documentaries that are 2 hours long. And they're the kind of stories that live on for generation after generation. So you don't have to worry about telling your kids all this is the school I went to. This is the street I lived on. This is what my mom used to do. Like they forget. They won't forget anymore because the video will have the story from the source, from the exact source. There's also the Year Flicks, which I think is awesome. Basically, Year Flicks is a chance, like a benchmark video for your kids. 12, 13, 14-year-olds, right? You want to see their growth and see what they're into. These 20-minute videos, just awesome. Q&As where you get to know your kid on a different level, and then you can compare it in a couple years to a different one. It's just so cool what they do there. It is Heritage Films, the website, yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to Nick Savage. Actually, we're not going to him, but just to get him prepared. So, John Fury, do you know who he is?
No.
He is Tyson Fury's dad. Do you know who Tyson Fury is?
He's a boxer, right?
Yeah, he's the champ.
I know Nick Fury is.
Oh, Nick Fury. That's my kind of people right there.
That's why you're going to Nick Savage.
No, but John Fury, he's like a legendary boxing coach as well. Right?
Okay.
His son, what's his name? Tommy Fury, not the champion.
No relation to Tyson.
No, there is
relation.
They're brothers.
Okay.
But he's not as accomplished as him. He's going to be fighting KSI. KSI, sorry, I feel like it's like such a weirdo explaining this. KSI is like a YouTuber who fights. Okay, that's a new thing now. And on this same card, Logan Paul. Familiar with the name Logan Paul?
No.
Fighting Dylan Dennis. It doesn't matter. They had this press conference yesterday to promote the fight. Okay. And John Fury, who is a legendary coach, got a little intense when some of the sparring. So just take a look at what happened yesterday at this press conference.
And can anybody question who I am here? If I say, come on, get it done.
I would love for press conferences in college football.
Yeah, how much of that do you think is real?
So I think a lot of the stuff that was happening beforehand was fake. I think John Fury, being an old school guy, just got fed up with it because he kept on complaining, can we stop making this a charade and talk boxing? 2 or 3 different times he said that during the presser, and then he finally just had it. But it's boxing.
I saw one guy looked like he wanted to fight in the
white tank top. That's KSI,
and he's being held back, but guys holding back with one arm.
Yeah, it's so fake. I just show it because it's funny, but it's so fake. Could you imagine like Jimbo responding to a press conference like that? I'm done. Just throwing the table.
Yeah, that would. And it'd probably be.
That's what would happen.
Probably because something I asked him.
Or if they brought both coaches on, Lane and Jimbo, it'd be like Mark Robinson doing it.
That would be awesome.
That would be great.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. All right, let's go back to the News and Social Center, brought to you by the Angry Elephant. Kennedy, we've got tailgating coming up soon, right?
Yes, we do. That's actually what I was just doing. I thought you were going to go to a text. So I was like, find a text. Didn't have to find it.
We had a lot of texts you said earlier, so
there are like
plenty.
a million, but they're all like, how some people just are.
And how are they? Explain to me.
Negative and judgmental and rude. Not rude, but like
have you
judgmental.
But you point out like somebody texted in and corrected me because it was 2021.
Yeah. Like who needs to know that?
It's okay. I don't mind being corrected. I'm staying correct. Yes, it was 2021 when DeMarvin and all those guys were saying, hey, Devon, we got you.
It's just a lot of stuff like that. That's what's going on the text line right now.
How often are people texting in just like happy? If you were to do an unscientific poll.
5 times last football season.
Not a lot.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Tell us what people can do if they want to enjoy a TexAgs tailgate, Kennedy.
They can come to the office at 308 George Bush Drive. Is that the address?
308 George Bush Drive, correct.
Yeah. Come by on game days. We start 3 hours before and in 30 minutes prior to kickoff. Y'all should come.
Food and drinks?
I'm running them. Yeah, there's food. We got Costa Vida coming for this first tailgate. Then we got drinks being served. It'll be fun. We have like cornhole boards.
Cornhole drinks.
I didn't make that sound very exciting.
All you got to know is if Kennedy's running it, it's going to be a good party.
Hey, what a compliment that was.
Nick, have you partied with Kennedy? How do you know? I don't know if you know.
But I've heard stories, so I know.
Is that right? OB?
Kennedy, there's a TexAgs rule about being intoxicated at work.
She's never been intoxicated at work.
She's never been in charge of the tailgate before.
I think there's a different rule for that, right?
I don't think so.
Can you party as you work the tailgate?
I've made the decision to not, because that's just not a good thing to do when I'm supposed to be running something. So.
You know what? I won't either.
Yeah, you have actual work to do.
OB, thank you, sir.
You bet.
When we come back on TexAgs Radio, John Harris, Phil Stephenson, Chris Gordy. It's like a law firm. The 9 o'clock hour, loaded with that. That and more. It's TexAgs Radio. And we are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Those of you ready to get married, you know where to go. 911 University Drive East in College Station. The ideal gift for any David Yurman collector, a signature bracelet to add to her stack from David Gardner's. Shop online at davidgardnersjewelers.com. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to get John Harris on the line here in a moment. Before we do that, let's do a couple of those text messages. We can do a little halvesy, Cavs. We can go good, happy, sad, happy, sad. Balance it out, like the Force. Does that mean anything to you?
The Force? You know that I'm a Star Wars fan. That was like one of the first things. Like, I think my very first show that I did here, we discussed how I was a Star Wars fan.
That's true. That's true.
I'm pretty positive. Oh, I got to put in my...
I don't remember things.
My little headphone. Do you want a negative one first? Because I got one pulled up immediately.
Well, I mean, let's go. By the way, she's at the Angry Elephant using Social Center.
I'm there right now.
You see, like, look to your right shoulder. It's right there. See? It says Angry Elephant Social Center.
Yep. David in the Pacific Northwest said, cornhole is just a horrible name for a beanbag game. That's what we're starting out on.
And you decided that was what you wanted to have on this show. That was your choice.
Well, because it's exactly what I pulled up on my computer when I opened it, and I just thought that would be something to start off on a funny note. No.
All right.
Oh.
Let's do one more happy one this time.
Happy one. Bo in Austin, Texas said, I'm not sure if this has been discussed on the radio, but what about those Needville boys going in the Little League World Series run?
I don't know if we did talk about their most recent win. We also interviewed their head coach, who's an Aggie. We've talked about them. I think they had the day off yesterday. Am I right about that?
I have not been keeping up with this.
I bet you our next guest, who, by the way, I'm not going to do this to him. I could say Heisman Trophy winner 1983. He would be able to spit it out because he doesn't even need Wikipedia. John Harris here on the hotline. John, good morning, sir.
Microgier, Nebraska.
This is amazing, bro. Can I do it again? Because I know this used to be a bit back in the day, but like this is phenomenal. 1991.
Desmond Howard, Michigan.
1989.
Come on, man. And that's my boy. That's my boy, Andre Ware. Come on. I'll never forget that one.
Oh, man, you're so good. All right, I'm going to just do one more. Last one. Ready? 1973.
John Capiletti, Penn State.
Gosh, you're so good. I'm not fact-checking you. I just know you're right. By the way.
No, I'm right.
I know.
Of things I can tell you I'm right, I'm right.
Footballtakeover.com. Go become a subscriber. And, of course, Houston Texans sideline reporter John Harris with us here on TexAgs Radio. Johnny, let's start off with college football. We'll end with some NFL thoughts. 0 week. Not always big games. There's some intriguing games this year. What does 0 week mean to you?
Well, it just means that Saturday there's something to do. If you didn't have anything, if you don't have anything planned, well, all of a sudden it's like, well, honey, college football starts this week. No, it doesn't. It starts next week. No, this is week 0, hon. I have to be locked in. And there are a couple of, I don't know if good ball games is the right way of saying it, but you got a couple of named teams, a couple of ranked teams, top 15 teams. You got Notre Dame taking on Navy in Dublin, which should be pretty fun because that's the start of the Sam Hartman era for Notre Dame. And Marcus Freeman's got to have a bounce back year at Notre Dame, where that seat's going to get very warm very, very quickly. And then you've got USC taking on San Jose State in a week 0 game. So you get to see Caleb. Well, I say we're going to see Caleb Williams, but it's on the Pac-12 network. So I don't think anybody's going to see it until somebody tries to put it on YouTube the next day. Because I don't know how you get Pac-12 network now, and in the future it's going to be kind of dicey. But week 0 is, I don't want to say it's like week 1, but it's kind of nice. You got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, ESPN was stretching it a little bit. I mean, their primetime game is New Mexico State versus UMass. So Yeah, but we'll at least get an afternoon game like we did last year. Last year we had a great afternoon game with Nebraska and Northwestern. It was tremendous. It was a great game, and that was over in Ireland as well. That was a great football game. So hopefully Notre Dame and Navy will live up to it, and hopefully the highlights of USC and San Jose State will be good. But just to know that college football really is kind of around the corner, it kind of shocks you back into your system. But I'll be in New Orleans for it. It'd be kind of nice to land in New Orleans, watch a couple games, go out to dinner, come back, watch a little bit more. So it'd be good. But yeah, week 0, just getting it started is absolutely fantastic, and I'll have it covered. Obviously at footballtakeover.com, I have everything. I got Harris 100 up there. I got top 50 SEC draft prospects. I got top 30 Big 12 prospects. I'm right now working on my top 50 Big 10 prospects. So you're going to have more than enough stuff to dive into. So, and it's a pretty fair price. I mean, it's, not like TexAgs fair, but it's fair.
Talking to John Harris here on TexAgs Radio. Does it matter to you, Johnny, when a quarterback is announced? The word announced, because I think sometimes things are just understood and not announced. Does it matter? Some people wondering, when is Jimbo going to do his? And, this team does that. And does it matter to you?
I wish I could bring Mark Vandermeer in here. He's in here next to me. We're just having this conversation because people are panicking in some sense in Houston about why DeMeco Ryans won't name C.J. Stroud the starting quarterback. I'm like, just relax, man. Forget it. I think in college it becomes even more of a you keep that close to the vest until snap one. Absolutely, because when I think about Connor and Max, they're not the same guy. You might do a lot of the same things with them, but it's not like you have, and there have been years of this. And I remember when Bobby Petrino was at Louisville, he had Lamar Jackson and he had another guy, and those two are polar opposites. And I just think in college, if I were coaching in college, I would tell the media, relax. You'll find out snap one. When do we play? We play September 2nd at 3:30 in the afternoon. That's when you'll find out. That's when you'll know. Now, the team might know, and the coaching staff might know, and there might be select people that know. But especially in college, man, I am keeping that close to the vest. Completely. Everybody knows in the NFL, like, okay, we know that. Everybody pretty much knew Baker Mayfield was going to be the starter in Tampa Bay. He's a starter in Tampa Bay. Everyone knows C.J. Stroud's going to be the starter. DeMeco hasn't said it yet. But people are losing their minds about it. Relax. You're going to have a quarterback under center in the opener. Don't worry. You're not going to not have a quarterback. And you're probably going to have a pretty decent one. So let's Aaron Rodgers' thing. RELAX. You're going to have a starting quarterback, and it's going to be okay. I know the whole thing. Well, you got to get the starter. Get the starters reps. They're getting them already in practice. We just don't get a chance to see it. So, like, calm down. Sorry. This irritates me more than anything else. Well, who's going to start? So you're going to tell the other team 2 weeks before you play a game, this guy's our starter, so they can go back and watch every single snap of that guy and watch no, you force them to watch every single snap of every guy. That's what you're trying to do when you probably don't name a starter. Now, there are certain cases where you're not sure yet. So it turns into kind of like The Bachelor or Bachelorette where you're not. I love both of them. Which one am I going to pick? Sometimes it can be like that. Not always. A lot of times coaches already know. But you're going to give the other coach the advantage of knowing who that other guy is? Like, hey, they're starting Connor Wegman against us. Get everything we know about Connor Wegman. Now you give him 2 weeks to prepare for that? No. You walk out there, Wegman's a starter, and they're like, wow, we thought he was going to be. But you probably didn't have all that time that you could have had because now you got a split time. Well, just in case. So hold that thing close to the vest. I'm glad Jimbo's not naming a starter. Name him the starter at 3:29 for a 3:30 game when you're doing the interview on the sidelines, or you walk by Luch and go, hey, Luch, David, Wegman's starting today. And you're like, well, duh, we knew that. Okay, great. Force the other team to that 1% chance of them having to think it might be somebody else. It might be Max. It might be something else. That's enough. That might be enough. It might be one play in a game that works in your favor, but that's enough when it comes to college football and even the NFL.
All right, so I'm going to be one of the texters right now in my mind, or one of the message board. But if you got to deceive New Mexico, you're going to have a rough season. And what I think you're saying is not necessarily for New Mexico, although A&M can't overlook anybody. It might be even for Miami not to give them an extra week or whomever, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not always for just the first game. You know, a lot of programs will end up doing I know in the NFL, talking to coaches over the years, they usually use the first 3, maybe 4 games in the offseason. So they'll take the first 3 or 4 games. And if it's a non-division team, so they'll take them and they'll go through those first 3 games and they'll dive in like it's a division team. The division teams, they already know. So they're doing work on division teams and they're doing work on the first 2, 3 non-division teams on their schedule. It's exactly what Miami's doing. I guarantee you their GM is Alonzo Highsmith. He spent years in the NFL. He knows kind of how to and I guarantee he's got that influence. Mario Cristobal spent a little bit of time in the NFL too. So there's going to be a little bit of that influence. So, yeah, I mean, it's – you're hiding it from New Mexico. No, that's not really the point. You're just keeping things under wraps, forcing teams to go, well, we just don't know. And absolutely. Miami's, the 9th? Is that the 9th, David? They're playing Miami?
Yes, correct.
Is that the second game?
Yep.
Yeah. Even in the second game, there could be a lot of things that you don't see in that week 1 game. And I would think that there'll be some things that Bobby will hang on to offensively that he won't show in week 1, that he'll save for week 2. There might be things that he's saving for week 6 for a particular team because he knows these teams in the SEC. So he might be saving some things for that. Anything and everything from a college perspective that you can keep close to the vest, I would. Injuries, if I were Jimbo, I'd stand up there and go, I don't have to tell you anything. I don't have to tell you anything. We don't have an injury report. I wouldn't tell media anything as it pertained to injuries. Not at all. If there's no injury report, I'm not telling you anything. I got 85 guys in scholarship. They all might be ready. They all might not be. I'm not telling you anything. I would keep things close to the vest in those kind of situations as much as possible.
By the way, and there's a lot, I don't know why there's so much chatter about this, but the chat is going crazy with this because some people fail to see the advantage of doing this. And sometimes it's not necessarily just about an advantage, right, John? Like, I don't owe you anything. Like, just because you want to know, like, my team knows. They know. They see the guy doing the reps. Like, the announcement doesn't matter. Like, it only matters to you.
What as a fan is that going to do? Like, oh, Connor Wegman's our starter. Yay, let's go out pound beers. Like, I don't understand, what that is. I mean, do you trust Jimbo? Maybe you don't trust Jimbo. I don't know. But you're going to have a starting quarterback. And I've yet to fully understand it. Well, you got to be open about, like, why? Why? I mean, trust me. What you say as a coach will come back to you in some way, shape, or form. It will happen. It will happen. If you're too flippant with the media, if you just are casually saying things, it will come back to you in some point. Guess who it's happened to?
Johnny.
Yours truly. So you just keep things as much as possible close to the vest. You don't have to tell. If you don't have to tell people who's injured, if you don't have to tell them who the starting quarterback is, you don't have to tell them. You know what depth chart Jim Harbaugh puts out for Michigan? You know what it looks like? A blank sheet of paper. That's what he puts out.
Johnny Haynes King, 2 years ago, we were all very high on him. Last year, we had expectations of being high. I hope he does great at Georgia Tech. Has your evaluation of him changed? Because I think, like all of us, you were kind of high based on what we saw in high school. Did his mechanics fail him? Did something change? Was it his injury situation? Because he did play injured pretty much all season last year. What did you see break down in his game?
Yeah, I didn't think he was the same thrower. Like, he didn't look the same. Like, if you go back and you watch his, which I did this past summer because he was in that same Elite 11, I believe. I think he was in that same Elite 11 with C.J. Stroud. And so going back and wanting to watch CJ, because obviously he's now a member of the Houston Texans, I wanted to watch CJ. And I'm like, wait a second. Oh, yeah, that's right. Haynes was in that group. And so I watched him in that Elite 11 show, and I went and I watched him throw last year. He looked different. Like, his throwing mechanics just looked different. He looked like he was laboring a lot last year trying to throw the ball. Like, it didn't look smooth and fluid. In high school, it was a good, fluid, natural, traditional motion and everything. Last year just looked odd. And I don't know if that was an injury. I don't know if he was trying to work on his mechanics or what, but it just felt like it went kind of sideways. It just didn't feel like he was natural, like he had been, in that Elite 11 that I saw. And then obviously, some of the games that I saw in high school. So that to me was kind of a, like, what happened here? So maybe that was injury related. And it doesn't have to always be arm or whatever. It could be something in his lower body. And so he was adapting on a lower body. And so he was trying to adapt upstairs because of it. So there could have been a lot of things going on. But I think sometimes you just, Lovie Smith used to say this, sometimes divorce is a good thing. And I think for A&M, they've got a couple of really good options at quarterback. I think it's going to be Connor, but, it might be Max. So who knows? So you keep that under wraps. But I think Haynes gets an opportunity to start again with Georgia Tech. I think it's a program that needs an infusion of talent and needs an infusion of quarterback play. I mean, they've had Jeff Sims there, who's now at Nebraska, and Sims was a dynamic weapon, but he couldn't throw his way out of a paper bag. And I think Haynes gets an opportunity at Georgia Tech. I think the ACC is manageable. He's not facing the SEC West defense every week. So I think Haynes will go to Georgia Tech and do some good things. And this is the interesting one for me, David. I'll ask you this question. How do Aggies feel about it? Are they cheering for him? Are they not? Are they like, good riddance? How do they kind of feel about Haynes?
I think most people want him to do well, but felt totally underwhelmed by what they saw from him in his tenure at A&M. Because we love to look at 2021 as, had Haynes been healthy, we might have been that 9-3, 10-2 team. And that didn't turn out to be the case, at least in 2022. But there were more issues than just Haynes. I wish him well. I like the kid. I talked to him a few times, and I agree with you. The mechanics certainly did break down. Harris 100. I know there's one guy on that list. There's more than one guy on that list, but from A&M's perspective, that is our 23 and 23 today spotlight, which is number 3, McKinley Jackson. What do you love about McKinley's game?
So this was back in the summer, David. I was watching. I can't remember who I was watching, but I was studying somebody from Alabama. And I was like, I want to see this game. And it happened to be the A&M game. And so I got out my Surface, and late, I don't know, it was like 9:30. And I'm a pretty early riser, and I go to bed really early. I was like, but I got to do this. I've been wanting to get it done. And so I turned on the A&M and Alabama game, and I'm watching A&M. And I had watched an A&M game prior to. It was the Arkansas game, I think. And McKinley Jackson doesn't play in that game. And so I'm watching these, and I'm like, man, they're really talented on the front. And I was like, what about McKinley Jackson while watching the Alabama game? And I'm like, yeah, they're 35. The number always stands out to me. I always look for skill position numbers on defensive linemen. That always tells me something. So I'm seeing number 35, and I'm like, okay. And the very first play, I think, of the game, maybe in the first drive sometime, he's playing over the nose. And I've got all angles of it because I got the all 22 from our film room. And there's a play in which the center goes to pass block. And I swear to you, McKinley comes out of his stance, and he is literally launching himself into the center. Like all four, like hands, feet are off the ground. And I'm like, my God. And then he just blows into the center. And I'm like, what is this? And, during the season, I watch guys. I don't get a chance to watch everybody. And so I focus a lot on the guys that are draft eligible then, guys that are playing then, all that kind of stuff. I'm watching, and I can't take my eyes off him. The power, the quickness, the hands. Holy cow. This guy's a demon. They can't block him. He is just messing everything up. He's taking on double teams. He's dropping to a knee and torquing through. I mean, doing it exactly like you're supposed to. The power. I'm like, man. So I make all these notes. I got all my notes over here, and I'm like, he's got to be in my top 100. I mean, he's a fantastic player. The next morning, I swear to God, Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl tweets out the exact same video that I had been looking at, the same play. And I'm like, oh my God, this is weird. Because he had done that for another player that I had watched the night before. And so I'm watching him thinking, that guy is dynamic. That is the way defensive linemen in the NFL are supposed to look. And I feel like we're in kind of this heyday of interior defensive linemen in the NFL. Aaron Donald is a special dude. He's up on a kind of a shelf. But you got the Dexter Lawrences, the Jonathan Allens, the Jerome Paynes, Christian Wilkins, who I got a chance to see last week in practice. There are dudes everywhere now. I think McKinley Jackson can be one of those dudes. He can be a guy that in the right system and scheme, like I would love to see him in our system where he and his strength and his quickness would be so disruptive because it's really get up field now. And as strong and as quick as he is, I think he would be an absolute menace. I got a feeling that if he stays healthy this year, I think he's 59 or 60 in my Harris 100 right now. I think he's probably going to be, if those things happen, he stays healthy mainly, I think he could be a top 32 pick. I think he could get into the first round. I don't feel bad in saying that. I think this is going to be a tremendous, if everybody declares, I think it's going to be a tremendous interior defensive lineman class. And I think McKinley Jackson's right in the thick of it.
Johnny, I got to hit a break. Tell us what we can get on footballtakeover.com.
Yeah, footballtakeover.com, my Harris 100 prospects. I put up there the forgotten Harris 100, guys that I always kind of forget about. There's a defensive lineman from Michigan I just blanked on, and he's a stud. Top 50 draft prospects in the SEC. You obviously see some Aggies there. I'm going to have all my game predictions for all college football, all the NFL, some fantasy stuff going up there. Hopefully it's going to be worth it. It's $29.99 a year. So my draft guide will come out in April. It's probably worth that. So you get the draft guide and everything else is free. That's the way you can look at it. So if you just want to do it for a month, it's $2.99 a month. That's nothing. That's not even a Starbucks coffee. So come support footballtakeover.com. We got merch, we got T-shirts, we got mugs. It's good stuff. So come check it out.
1963
would be Roger the Dodger. Roger Staubach.
You're so good, brother. Appreciate you, man. Talk to you.
DC, buddy. Bye.
Right.
Hey,
yeah.
1957. Why didn't you ask me 1957?
I didn't think about it. Well, who's 1957?
Because it's John David Crow. Aggie.
Oh, JDC. Bye. Later, bro. That's my dude. All right. My good friend, Jocko Willick, and my good friend, John Harris, and my good friends at the Charge Apparel. Aggie owned and operated, purpose-driven apparel brand. Veteran owned and operated, and they donate 12% of total sales to organizations that support U.S. veterans and mental health initiatives. It is an ode to the 12th man. They stand in support for our servicemen and women by donating 12% of their total sales, and it's just such a cool thing that they do. It is premier fabric, lightweight, slightly tailor-fit clothing. It is thebomb.com. That fit will fit you perfectly through the chest and the arms, designed to make you feel and look your absolute best. The Charge Apparel is a Texas-based company that operates out of Austin, although they're currently behind enemy lines. One of their owners is from College Station, and both owners graduated from Texas A&M back in 2014. You can visit them at thechargeapparel.com or find them on Instagram at thechargeapparel or on Twitter, The Charge Brand. Make sure you check it out. The clothing is amazing. I wear it all the time. I think you'll love it. And I know everybody who's been visiting the website is like, I got to get 2 of those. It's The Charge Apparel. Go check it out. And we are back. TexAgs Radio here, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Talking a little Aggie soccer here. Phil Stephenson with us. First time for me to actually meet you. Coach G's in some meetings. I know you do a lot of the game planning, so thank you so much for coming in.
You're very welcome. Great to be here.
Yeah, and I'm good friends with your son, Chris, so
hopefully I am too.
Well, he's a very proud son. Let's talk about the start of the season, because when I explained it to those who didn't watch the games, you guys have started off 0-2. The ladies have started off 0-2. That, to me, record is not indicative of the type of soccer you all have played. It's been really good soccer. I think unlucky. How do you kind of sum up where you are right now?
I see us as a work in progress. And from the first scrimmage to Washington State, I think we've really developed in a bunch of areas we're working on. I think we're probably one of the best teams in the country in attacking transition. We can go from the top of our box to their goal pretty quickly with a lot of people. And we just have to shore up some things. We gave gifts away on Sunday for goals. And we showed it. It was painful. Yesterday we showed it in film, and we worked on it. We're working on it again today. But I just think there's a lot to work with. Yeah. For example, we played Florida State a couple of years ago at their place, had a little bit of the same game plan, but only had one chance. We could only create one chance out of that. And, you look at 10 shots for us, 11 shots for them, 4 shots on goal, 5 shots on goal for them this time. And I think we're in a better place. Unfortunately, we're 0-2.
How are the players responding?
They're pissed.
Good.
And that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know we should have got something out of Florida State game, and quite frankly, we were in control of Washington State until we gave them goals. So they want to work hard. They're doing extra. They're watching film. We've started classes this week, so they're working around their class schedule to go out and do more stuff as well as practice.
I watch the games, and when Mekhi McDonald's out there, I have not seen a defense that can stop her, right? Like, she gets going. Just what have you seen in her growth this year?
It's always been there. We've seen it in spurts, and we're like, hey, if you can do that, do it again. And now she's just got so much confidence, it seems like. We've been, pushing her and pulling her and prodding her, and now she realizes that she can do it all the time, which, in itself will cause more defenses to overload that one side. We'll have to do some other things to get her free rather than just Mac doing it by herself. But that's a natural progression of scouting reports and film, and as people watch us, they'll realize that.
That'll open up other players too, though, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it happened last year towards the end of the season with Mia Ponte.
Yeah.
When Mia was playing really well, she was double teamed, which meant that we would go to her side knowing that we wanted to go to the other side.
I've been watching closely this year, and I feel like teams have had a headhunter mentality with Miley Hayes. Like, they're very physical with her, and she does not. She just gets up and does her business. When you watch her play and you see the kind of, I don't know if abuse is the right word, but the physicality that she encounters and how she responds to that.
Yeah, it's she's a good thespian. So some of it is to get the referee on her side, and some of it is she puts herself in positions that other people don't want to put themselves in. And so, with Miley, she got kicked, the referee gave a foul. She got kicked, the referee gave a foul. She got kicked, the referee gave a foul. She got up, bounced up, ran away, and then she got a penalty kick. Mm-hmm. So, things like that is a good bit of gamesmanship on her part as far as learning how to play the referees and the games.
I've been very impressed with both Matulas, by the way. Margot and Macy, they are just. I met their father at the game the other day. They play the game with this tenacity. What have you learned about them this year and over the last couple of years?
The phrase "speak softly and carry a big stick" is really kind of their watchword. Mm-hmm. Both of them. They're off the field. They're pretty mild, and when you get into a tackle with them, you probably know about it. Both of them, there's a lot of development to do, and it's great that they're working incredibly hard on the things that are going to make them so much better.
How big is this game on Saturday? I mean, considering it's Baylor down the road, considering your 0-2 Fish Camp game, it's going to be a packed crowd. Just the importance of this one.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really circle things on the calendar. We look at every game as really important. It probably has a little bit more importance because we are 0-2, but we want to beat Baylor. If we were undefeated for the last 10 years, we'd want to beat Baylor really badly. So it's big, but anybody that comes in, it was going to be big.
How important is the atmosphere for you all, considering it's going to be packed? I know for the players it matters, but do the coaches, do you guys does it register?
I've got great ADD, so it does. I can take it in. It doesn't change anything I do. I was amazed on Thursday and Sunday how many people were there in the heat that we had. I mean, it was incredible.
114 on one of those days, right?
I don't know. I don't even look anymore.
Right.
It's not 55 degrees and rainy, which is where I came from. So, but I think that the players love it. The only thing that I can guarantee for the opposition is because we have a 360 crowd, which is really unusual. The opposing goalkeeper has about 200 sports psychologists behind them. And we have seen opposing goalkeepers do brilliant things that we hadn't seen on any sort of scouting film. And I swear it's because of those 200 sports psychologists that they have in their head.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess last thing for you, just your message to those that just to keep with you because it's coming. You see the trends developing at practice and through film.
It's exciting. I think if you're a neutral, we're an exciting team. If you're a diehard Ag, we're going to win some stuff. So we're fighting. Keep with us.
Phil, I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. We'll get you here again at some time, all right?
Right.
When we come back, a little Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC, next on TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's kind of go around the SEC with my buddy Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. Chris, good morning, buddy. How you doing?
Doing good, David. It is game week, finally.
About time, man, right? Like, for us, this offseason has been forever since our bowl game was in November. Not to bring that back up, but it feels like it's been a quick minute.
Yeah, it has been a while. And the thing that's crazy to me, David, I talked about this on my Locked On SEC show today. I can't remember a time where there's been this much optimism around the conference. And I say this on the heels of Mississippi State just announced yesterday they sold out their season ticket allotment for this year. Auburn has done the same. Tennessee has done the same. Alabama has announced all their home games have been sold out. Like, it's been this chain reaction of team after team after team has been announcing, they've sold out their season ticket allotment. Like, they've increased their season ticket allotment and they've sold that out. And the student section tickets are sold out. Like, Kentucky announced they've been sold out. Like, it's crazy. And I'm not saying like buying tickets means, oh, we're going undefeated, but like, I have not heard any pessimism anywhere, David. Like, every fan base I've talked to at SEC Media Days, people who cover the teams, fans of the teams, like, everyone is super optimistic about their teams this year. And I'm just going, wait a minute, like, someone has to be down. Like, someone is not going to achieve what they want to achieve this year. And I get it. The season's about to start and everybody's undefeated. And so, there is reason for optimism, but I just can't remember a time where it's been this much optimism. Like, typically there's at least one or two fan bases who are like, I don't know, man, 6 wins might be it for us, or our coach is on the hot seat. Like, even every Aggie fan I've talked to is like, I think we bounce back this year. So it's just been wild that, there's just so much optimism right now. Maybe that's a good thing.
Talking to Chris Gordy here on TexAgs Radio. You brought up Mississippi State. I wanted to ask you, they're such an interesting team because the conventional thinking would be if Coach Leach were back, people would be saying this is a team that might win 9 or 10 games. They won 9 last year. Why not? The fact that Coach Leach isn't there has some, and they lost some players too. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to Will Rogers, are you surprised he isn't typically listed as one of the top 2 quarterbacks? Because I feel like it's always Jaden or KJ, and Will Rogers is kind of forgotten.
Yeah, it's so tough. And I've seen a couple of outlets doing their quarterback rankings this week. And it's like, it's so hard to do those things because what are we ranking? Are we ranking on production? Because if we're ranking on production, Will Rogers is among the best. If we're ranking on, we think this guy's going to lead his team to a bunch of wins, well, Carson Beck is going to be right up there at the top, although none of these rankings have Carson Beck in the top 5. So it's quarterback rankings are always very like, what are we really ranking here? But you're right. Like, Will Rogers has been one of the most productive quarterbacks. Like, go look at his stats the last 2-3 years. He's been among the league leaders, not just the SEC leaders, but like all of college football. Nobody's throwing for more yards than Will Rogers, like very few people. So, yeah, it's going to be a very different offense with Kevin Barbay. I think they're going to be way more balanced this year with Jaquavius Sparks back at running back. I think they're going to be a lot more ground and pound. And then that defense, like I keep looking at everybody that they've got on that defense. You got Jet Johnson back at linebacker, Nathaniel Watson. Those 2 guys were the leading tacklers in the SEC a year ago. They're both back at the same school. So like having them back, all the pieces they've got on that defensive line. I love Jaden Crumity is back for another year. Like I keep hearing people picking Mississippi State to finish last in the West and go like 6-6. But I keep looking at their roster going, man, they got too much talent. Like Tulu Griffin was just named, preseason all-American return man. Like, how do they have all these pieces and yet Mississippi State's going to finish 6-6? I know the schedule's tough, but I think they're going to be better than that. I think Mississippi State, like my hot take has been, that's a 9-win team. I don't know where they find the 9 wins, but they're going to shock some people and upset some people, whether it's LSU, A&M. Somebody's going to lose to Mississippi State and look back and go, well, how did we lose to those guys?
Chris, do you think it's possible at the end of the year we look at the top 2 quarterbacks in the conference, Devin Leary and Will Rogers?
It wouldn't surprise me. I've been very high on Leary. I talked to him at the Manning Passing Academy a few weeks ago, he said one of the big selling points was Mark Stoops telling him, look, we got all these freshman receivers that were studs a year ago, like Dane Key and Barry and Brown. And oh, by the way, we're bringing back Liam Cohen, who was the OC 2 years ago with Will Levis, that worked magic. And Kentucky had one of their best offensive seasons, since the Tim Couch days. So, there was very much reason for excitement for Kentucky and bringing back Cohen with Devin Leary there. I'm still bullish on Carson Beck, though. Like, I look at his arsenal that he has around him. I got a future Heisman bet on him at the Golden Nugget a few weeks ago because, like, at the end of the day, Georgia's schedule is weak sauce. They're going to be undefeated. And at the end of the day, they go running back by committee. There's no, like, one wide receiver that stands out among anybody. Lad McConkey's good. Brock Bowers is great, but we're not giving the Heisman to a tight end. We're just not. Like, he'd have to have like 2,000 yards for that to happen. So, I think at the end of the day, Carson Beck is going to be that guy that we look at. And I think he's going to be, he may not win it, but he's going to be in New York at the Heisman ceremony. I do believe, because Georgia's going to be undefeated and everybody's going to look and say, well, Georgia's got to have some rep. And it's going to be this guy who's throwing for 3,500 yards and, 30 touchdowns. And I think he's going to be there. So, maybe Will Rogers. I just think Rogers' numbers are going to come down a little bit just because they're going to be more balanced with Barbe calling the plays.
Chris, let's go through some of these ongoing, at least publicly, quarterback battles out there. The one that we cover right now, the Connor versus Max competition. Just your thoughts on how that's going to play out. I think I know your answer because I know most people's answers, but just some thoughts.
Yeah, it's Connor, and I read Olin's piece a few days ago where he said, look, the announcement's coming at the end of this week. It's just, that's when Jimbo's made the announcement the last couple of years. It's been around August 26th, so that's, we should get an announcement here in the next couple of days. I think there's nothing wrong with it, but Max Johnson is a very experienced quarterback who's played a lot of football, and, Aggie fans know firsthand. He beat him at LSU, so this is a kid that can play, and I think, his pedigree, his dad, Brad Johnson, I think they're just trying to be respectful of it and let this thing battle it out. And I do think Max does have some things that Connor doesn't have, and obviously, experience is one. But I think at the end of the day, Connor just being how highly touted of a recruit he was, how smart he is, how quick he gets the ball out. I think that's what Olin cited. Like, look, if the offensive line has any issues, give me the guy who gets rid of the ball the quickest. And that's Connor. Now, I don't know if he's going to be throwing a bunch of 60, 70-yard bombs like Joe Milton at Tennessee is, but I think Connor is that guy that can keep taking those steps in his development. I think Petrino's going to build that offense perfect for him with all those weapons, man. I mean, you talk about having an Ellis Smith back. I think that still is one of the most under talked about storylines of this offseason in the SEC. Like, I keep hearing all these people talk about receivers, and nobody wants to bring up Ellis Smith. I'm like, yeah, let's just sleep on him and watch him be top 5 receiving in the SEC at the end of the year. But I do think it's going to be Connor, and I think he's going to be very good. And I was telling somebody on a show earlier this morning, I think we're going to look back a year from now, and we're talking about Connor Wegman as one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the SEC, but in the country. And we're going to be, it's going to be that feeling like, God, this guy's been there forever. It's like we always do when a guy's like a junior in college. But I think it's going to be Connor, and I think they'll make the announcement probably at the end of this week.
Let's do another one here at Bama, which is the biggest TBD. I think it's going to be Jalen Milroe. Some believe it's going to be Tyler Buchner because why else would he come over there? There's Ty Simpson, obviously. Just your thoughts on how that's playing out.
Yeah, I've been told Buchner is out. That was more of just a move to bring in and push those guys that were on the roster. They watched that spring game and said, look, too many mistakes from Simpson and Milroe. Let's bring in somebody just to send a message. Hey, we're serious here. We ain't messing around. Your job is not safe. Milroe has made tremendous strides. A few weeks ago, before they started fall camp, he was down in Florida with some of the receivers working out and trying to develop more chemistry. And from what I've heard, he's kind of cut out a lot of the mistakes, the turnovers, the bad plays he had in the spring. He's looked much better here in recent weeks. So I'm not counting out Ty Simpson. I do think the luxury they have in playing Middle Tennessee, they'll announce Jalen Milroe as he's going to start that game, but it's not going to be he's QB1 and that's that. They're going to play both Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe against Middle Tennessee. If Milroe starts and he looks great, he'll be the guy that starts against Texas in week 2. But I do think this battle will kind of go into the season. Again, they'll announce Milroe will start, but not necessarily like he's QB1, the competition's over, let's roll. But Milroe, again, that running ability, if you go back and watch the Arkansas game last year, his feet in open field, my God, it's hard to bring that guy down. And all the down talk people talked about Alabama this offseason, if Milroe's the guy, I think he's going to be really good. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he finds himself in the Heisman conversation if Alabama's undefeated or with one loss down the road.
Chris, last one for you. I don't think Ole Miss has made an official announcement with Jackson Dart. I think everybody expects him to be the guy. But does Spencer Sanders have a chance in this conversation?
He has a chance, but if you read between the lines, David, I follow Ole Miss on all their social media channels. Every time they've tweeted out pictures from practice throughout the spring and the fall, Jackson Dart's photo is always like first in pod. Like, I'm like, what are we doing here? Is this really a quarterback battle? Why is Jackson Dart's photo always like, here's pictures from practice today and it's Jackson Dart? I'm like, okay, just say he's the guy. Talking with my guys there, they said he cut down so much on his interceptions in the spring. That was the big problem with him last year. He's taking care of the football. He's throwing more crisper balls. So I think it's going to be Jackson Dart. The question is, how bad is this Ole Miss defense going to be? And I think it's going to be bad. They've lost a lot of pieces. Pete Golding coming in, good defensive mind. I just think they're a year away from starting to turn this thing around. They've got recruits coming in next year, but I think Ole Miss, if they're going to win games this year, it's going to have to be those 38-31 type games, winning shootouts, because I think the defense is going to be bad. And again, I think we'll get an announcement here on Jackson Dart probably around week 1.
Can Judkins follow up what he did his freshman year, you think?
He can. I'm shocked how much love he's getting and how, like, every first-team preseason All-American list, it's Quinshon Judkins first, and, like, Rocket Sanders at Arkansas is getting pushed to the curb as the second team. And I'm like, wait a minute, these two guys went back and forth all last season as leading rusher in the SEC, and yet it seems like Quinshon's getting all the love. I get it. He was a freshman. It was fantastic. Set Ole Miss freshman rushing records and all that, but I still think when healthy, they want to go running back by committee. Don't discount some of those other guys in that room. Ulysses Bentley, who came over from SMU, who was injured last year. Like, I still think in a perfect world, Ole Miss is rotating backs and getting 3-4 guys production.
Chris, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, David.
Later, buddy. Chris Gordy there, Locked On SEC and iHeartRadio in Houston, does great work. Let's hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we'll get to some of your text messages on the hotline, 979-693-1150. Let's talk about tailgate opportunities in Aggie Park. The first football game of the season is right around the corner, and if you're still looking for a great spot to tailgate before the season for each game, you need to reach out to the Association of Former Students, who are excited to announce their new partnership with Revel XP to make available additional tailgating space in Aggie Park for the 2023 season. The Aggie Spirit Lawn offers more than 60,000 square feet for tailgating, with packages starting at a few $100s for preset space, covering and chairs. Catering and other options are also available to add, and you're welcome to bring your own food and drinks to the tailgate. The lawn is situated in Aggie Park, steps away from the Kyle Field and the Clayton Williams Jr. Alumni Center and the Moore Family Creamery. Not only is it close to all the action, but also the park provides amenities for all to enjoy: walking paths, restrooms, Wi-Fi, and much, much more. If you are interested in learning more about the tailgating opportunities or ready to book a spot, visit tx.ag/Aggie Spirit Lawn. All right, TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kennedy Kevin.
Hey. I always get a little thrown off now.
Why?
Like today, whenever you say Angry Elephant, just because, like, I haven't...
You're getting used to it.
I haven't gotten used to it.
It's like new furniture, like it's in the new area, right?
Yeah, so true. But it's cute. Look at her.
Look, it's a dude.
He's cute.
It's a dude elephant.
Very good, dude elephant. We have a few text messages for you, David.
Okay, thank you, Kennedy. Appreciate you.
An unnamed contact said the talking heads are always going to use A&M in their narrative, whether positive or negative, because of the size of our fan base. Next Saturday, can't get here fast enough.
Look, we just gotta go prove stuff, Like, when we prove stuff, there'll be some talking heads that are against you, just like every school, and there'll be some talking heads that are for you. There's reasons that there's a lot of chatter about A&M, and their job is to go and silence them, shut them up, right? And I do expect them to do that, but until you do it, people are gonna be chatting. That's what they do, right? They got to fill content too, and they got to get their likes and their retweets, so they just say things like, I think this because this is the last thing I remember reading about A&M a year ago, so this is still the truth. Whatever. You like that accent?
That was I don't even know, like...
Skeletor?
What... I don't know.
Squidward. That's what it sounded like to
who's
me.
Squidward?
A little bit.
Who's
SpongeBob?
I don't watch SpongeBob.
That's only like the greatest cartoon of all time.
Oh, I just learned a lot about Nick with that one sentence.
The greatest cartoon of all time.
I will stand by that. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Not talking about
And
like
he's
adult
doubling down.
cartoon.
What
whatever.
about the one that I mentioned before it is better?
Well, I'm
With
sorry.
Skeletor?
No.
He-Man?
No.
He-Man's not better?
That's incorrect, David. Sorry.
I bet your audience would choose He-Man.
I bet. Well, yeah, but
why?
Oh, Nick.
What are you trying to say about our audience?
I
You're trying
just
to say we're
understand
old?
our audience. No, well, I mean, just look at the numbers. They're older than me.
Oh, he's
Not
doubling
calling
down
people
on it
old.
again.
This guy, like...
Nick is just not. He said, "I am
Kennedy,
saying what
you
I'm
don't
saying."
think SpongeBob is good?
I mean, like, okay.
Whoa.
Here's the thing. I didn't watch it much as a kid.
G.I.
Okay, that's
Joe's
why.
better than both of those.
I mean,
Transformers, way better.
Okay,
The Star Wars
Oh,
things on
JB
Disney
and Canyon
Plus.
said, "Yes, Nick. Yes," with 3 exclamation marks.
Thank
so
you.
someone agrees with you.
Care Bears was better. Rainbow Bright,
Period.
everything.
Period.
Goodness gracious, what is wrong with you children? When we come back on TexAgs Radio, another child coming in the studio, Ryan Brauninger, Recruiting Country. That and more is next on TexAgs Radio. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Ryan Brauninger is here with us for Recruiting Country, and Recruiting Country is brought to you by Caprock Health System for a faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in the BCS, the original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, and the full-service hospital with ER in Bryan on Briarcrest, online at caprockhealthsystem.com. So I told you what Nick's comments were.
I like your shirt.
Thank you, sir. It's got the old school logo on it.
One of my favorite people of all time work at ABC 13.
Joe Gleason.
Joe Gleason, the GOAT. If you are in the city of Houston, and especially around high school sports, and you don't know who Joe Gleason is, like you really aren't even.
You're not in the high school sports world.
You're not.
You're not. Every athlete that comes by here from the Houston area knows Joe. He was my old executive producer at Channel 13, and just
off the charts human being.
Yeah,
off the charts.
Awesome dude. Nick, just a moment ago, made a comment that you actually kind of think I don't know if you agree with him, but you don't think he's far off. That what was it? SpongeBob is the greatest cartoon of all time.
I don't know that I would say it's the greatest of all time without sitting here and thinking about it. But what I said is I'd probably put it in the top 5, and you'd have a really good case for at least that because of the longevity of it, the usage of it, how like people still like quote SpongeBob and use SpongeBob memes today. Like it's had some staying power.
I didn't watch it, so I don't know. I don't think I'm qualified to answer.
Well, it's
but my kids,
it's 20 years after you were watching cartoons.
I don't think my kids watched that either. They watched Caillou. You a big fan of Caillou?
I don't know anything about Caillou.
That's your good dude. You should check out Caillou.
Like I grew up on Doug and Ren and Stimpy.
Didn't watch it either, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Rocco's Modern Life. These were all Nickelodeon shows when I was growing up.
I grew up on G.I. Joe, the Transformers.
Ninja Turtles
Thunder
was big.
Kids or Thundercats. Yeah, Ninja Turtles for sure.
Ninja Turtles was big. I was a big Ninja Turtles collector.
Oh, WWF Rock and Wrestling, whatever that show was called. With Hulk Hogan.
Was a cartoon?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
That was older
Hulk
than me.
Hogan was on it, JYD.
Were you a Hulkamaniac?
I was more of a Macho Man.
I loved that whole era, and I was a big WCW fan whenever it was split and they were both big.
Yep.
I was more in the WCW. This was like 1997, 98.
I was in college.
We would have to, we would buy the wrestling magazines in middle school and like
Wrestling Observer.
Yeah, and like they would predict what's about to happen. We were all into it, man. It was crazy. We'd come. WCW was, WWF at the time had Monday Night Raw. WCW had Monday Nitro.
Yeah,
and so we were all WCW people, and we would come to school on Tuesday mornings and just get there early before class so we could talk about everything that happened on Nitro.
Ric Flair had the better career. I think Hulk Hogan had the bigger peak. Correct? Incorrect?
Again, like that's a pretty good argument. Like who was the bigger wrestling mogul, Flair or Hogan? Hogan, I think, reached more people. Like Flair, but Flair's still around doing stuff, and like he's had some long-lasting memes in the Ric Flair. Give me 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Like all the high school football, college football teams are still doing that. So now I think going back and looking at it after it's all over with, I think the Ric Flair flashy kind of stuff has allowed him to kind of stay relevant longer. You think about some of his old interviews that are still played a bunch because of some of the stuff he said. I don't know. That's a really good argument. Like, who was bigger? Hulk?
Yeah, I think Hulk was bigger. Rick was better and lasted longer and didn't get in as much trouble. Let's be honest.
Hey, were you an NWO guy?
I was.
Yeah.
I was into that. I mean, I didn't really watch it. At that point, I had kind of gotten, but I was interested by the storyline.
I love the intro. I almost did that. My high school walk-up song was the NWO theme.
That was what the Astros basically became after the cheating scandal. They became the NWO of baseball. Yeah. Carlos Correa was the face of it. All right, let's talk some. By the way, if you have any text messages for Bronny, you can do that at 979-693-1150. So, start of high school football season's here. You did some scrimmages.
Hit me with some recruiting questions, brother.
Hey, brother. Do you want to talk about the scrimmages from last week that you got to check out, or do?
Yeah, we can. I mean, it's hard to pull anything from scrimmages, just like it is at any other scrimmage or preseason game in the NFL. But I thought the biggest standout, the biggest takeaway from me from the two scrimmages that I went to was 2025 Bridgeland offensive lineman Jonte Newman, and the head coach at Bridgeland now is Lonnie Madison, former roommate of Billy Lucci and former Texas A&M defensive lineman. I thought Jonte Newman was awesome, and he had been really impressive in the camp settings that I'd seen him in, both at NLA early in the year, like January, also in the summer at A&M camp. I thought he was really impressive. He was super good last weekend in that scrimmage, and I think he is going to steadily rise up our rankings at TexAgs in terms of our top 2025 prospects, and I've already talked about what we think of that class as a whole and what we think of that class in the city of Houston as a whole. Insanely talented. Like, it's going to rival, the city of Houston is going to rival that 2022 class in terms of overall talent. And I think Jonte Newman is positioning himself to be at the upper echelon of that group in the city of Houston. He was really good. Very impressive.
Where are you headed this weekend? What's the crew doing?
So we are adding K Draw to our coverage. And I want to say this on the radio. He went down there and covered the Blake Ivy commitment and did a fantastic job.
Yeah, he did.
And that's kind of a big spot to be put in early in your career doing this, and I thought he did a fantastic job. He will be going out on his own this year. He's going to come with me tomorrow night, but then we're going to send him out on his own. So we're going to add to our coverage in terms of games seen every week. Jason is going to start in Oklahoma, actually, tomorrow night. He's going to drive up to Tulsa to see a game and a couple A&M targets in a game in Tulsa. And then on Friday, Jason is going to cover Allen and DeSoto, so one of the bigger matchups in the state of Texas and two Dallas powerhouses. Jason will be at that one on Friday. Tomorrow, I'm doing Grand Oaks and Aldine Nimitz at Wood Forest Bank Stadium in the Woodlands area. And then Friday, I have Summer Creek and Klein Cane. And then Saturday night, I have Katie Tompkins and Cy Ranch. And if you're going out this weekend to watch games, you need to make sure you're checking those kickoff times. They've moved most of the kickoffs back to later in the night. So if it was a 6 o'clock kick, they moved it to 7. If it was a 7 o'clock kick, they moved it to 8 to just try to fight some of the heat that's expected this weekend. And so the kids aren't playing in 103-degree heat even early in the evening. You know, if you're out there getting loose at 4:30, 5 o'clock, it's still really, really hot.
Have you, in your career, because I can't remember a time where this many sporting events were pushed back. I mean, soccer just did it. We've had tournaments pushed back or super early in the morning start because of this. I don't remember it being this mass like around. Do you?
No, I don't remember. But I'm glad they're doing it. If it's for the safety of the kids and all that kind of stuff, and like, don't tell me, oh, you got to be tough and work through it. No, there's certain scientific things that happen to your body, biological things that happen to your body when you get overheated that you can't just out tough.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So I'm glad they're doing it for the benefit of the student athletes, and it's going to make it for some late nights for us, but who cares? Like, we're not exerting any effort or energy, and that means that during the day now I can get my workout in. I got a little bit more time before I got to drive down to Houston to cover games. So I'm glad they're doing it. I think it's a really good precaution taken by the ISDs, and it kind of, I think, may have even started up around Dallas, and then Houston kind of, and now everybody's doing it. They're moving kickoff times back. And I would probably expect that to happen for the first couple of weeks.
I can't remember a summer that has been this intense. There was a summer when you were a kid, when I graduated college, 99 in Dallas, that I feel like it's like 21 straight days of over 105.
We're like 40-something right now, aren't we?
It's ridiculous, yeah.
But I just wish it would rain. Like, South Texas got some rain. The Hill Country got some rain with that tropical storm or that tropical low depression system or whatever. move through there. And I'm not a meteorologist. I don't even pretend to be one like Billy does. But they had that rain that moved through, and I was like, I would kill for just a good rain shower right now.
Commentary. I am so annoyed. When I was working in the news industry, they would say, like, people aren't watching local news because they can get it on their phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they never said that about weather. They never said that about weather. You can get the weather on your phone too, by the way.
What are you trying to start here?
I'm just trying to say is people think we're just dumb jocks, and we're not.
Okay.
That was just passionate right there.
I don't know, like you're trying to like drive a wedge between people in newsrooms. I don't know what you're doing here.
I just making a comment that I think it's unfair that sports gets the short end of the stick because, well, you can get sports on your phone. Well, you can get weather on your phone too. You can get news on your phone.
KBTX, we
I love those guys.
Thankful for what they do.
Shelby's awesome.
I'm not trying to.
I'm just saying
belittle your job here.
Everybody needs the
like
love.
David is.
I'm looking out for my KBTX sports people.
Okay. ELE. Everybody love everybody.
I like that.
Jackie Moon.
Let's talk about Terry Bussey.
Yeah, I don't know that anything's changed other than, everybody kind of jockeying for positions. He's got official visits during the year, early in the season. I know he's coming to A&M and has potentially multiple visits to Texas A&M inbound, and one before his decision and one after. So it sounds like regardless of what he picks in September, I think the 28th is his commitment date, 21st, 28th, something like that. Regardless of where he picks, it sounds like there's still going to be some opportunities to get him on campus. Obviously, you want it to be A&M. We felt extremely good about the Aggies' chances coming off the pool party, and I don't think we've come off of that, but the door is open now. LSU and Alabama are the two that are really trying to wedge their way in there. Texas as well in the mix, but I think A&M's done a great job of not only appealing to Terry, but the people in his inner circle. I think that coming from a small town, I think the transition to College Station is something that is going to be a little bit easier for him. And then, like I've said before, like when you look at what's going to happen on the roster at corner, or potentially happen on the roster at corner, like there's early snaps for somebody coming in, whether that's a true freshman as highly touted as Bussey, or if that's a transfer portal guy they decide to go after the season's over. But there's going to be snaps available at corner. And listening to Billy talk, Javon Thomas is already getting in that mix as a freshman. So they've also proven over the course of Jimbo's tenure that if you want to come in and you want to play early at corner and you're good enough to do it, he'll run you out there. Tyreek Chappelle, Jalen Jones. There was another one. Who played last year? Well, Denver played last year.
Denver played, yeah.
Yeah, so there's there's precedent for corners playing at A&M early in their career.
Yeah. We should have probably started with not Terry Bussey, excuse me. What am I missing? The Blake Ivy. I'm sorry, it took me. We should have probably started with that. Blake Ivy, big deal, adding to a very impressive class, adding to a very impressive offensive line crew. What does it mean overall?
Yeah, I think Jason's writing about the offensive line recruiting this cycle today in the long form, so I don't want to steal a bunch of his thunder on that. But it's just a fantastic job by Steve Adazio heading into the season. And look, I've said it, and we're going to keep saying it, because inevitably, if A&M struggles this year and the kids they start backing away from these commitments, somehow we are going to catch strays from the angry mob when that happens, or if that happens. A&M's got to win games. If they win games at a high rate this year, they'll sign these kids, and it'll be one of the best offensive line hauls Texas A&M's ever signed, perhaps maybe the best they've ever signed. I mean, it is a really good group. And here's another thing. We've spoken to Ashton Funk on the show the day I hosted. I think I had Ashton on for a segment and talked about him getting ready for his senior season. He doesn't do any camps at all. So, like, his rating is, and what the recruiting services think about him does not matter one iota to him or his family, so he doesn't go and do that stuff. But if you watch that tape and you rate that tape as a 3-star, what he actually does on the football field, and you don't dox him, or you don't dock him, for not going to camps, which I think is completely ridiculous. I don't see how you rate that kid as a 3-star. Like, we have him in the top 10 in the state of Texas because we think he's that good. When you go watch him play, when you go check his measurables, whenever you start checking off boxes for elite offensive linemen, Ashton Funk's got all of them. So that's how you started it. And then you went and got guys like Weston Davis, who is an elite athlete, was playing a bunch of basketball for one of the best high school basketball teams in America the last couple of years. Cohen Eccles, like really specific need as a center, and perhaps the best one in the state of Texas from a power program. When you get kids from Katy, offensive linemen from Katy, guess what they're going to be when they arrive? They're going to be ready.
Right.
From a understanding the game standpoint, from a technician standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint, from a realizing the expectations of a winning program, all that stuff is what you get whenever you get Katy offensive linemen in here. Papa Afua, just probably the best offensive lineman. I don't think probably the best offensive lineman in the state of Washington. One of the best on the West Coast, and plays with some real power and has positional versatility. And then you cap it off with Blake Ivy, who I don't know if you've watched that tape extensively. It is really impressive, like his movement patterns and how easy he moves around the field as being such a big guy. You don't see that very often. So it's an outstanding haul. It checks a lot of boxes in terms of versatility. It checks a lot of boxes in terms of guys being able to not only play different positions, but they have different strengths. And you have to put it's a huge feather in the hat of Steve Adazio. There were some questions about him as a recruiter when he came in. Last year's offensive line class wasn't necessarily deep, and it didn't help that Nikhil Betrain had to go to prep school. So he's not even, they signed him, but he's not on campus right now. So I think you've only got three on campus. TJ Shanahan and Colton Thomason have been working with the twos, and Chase Basantis, who was another Steve Adazio signee, is pushing to start as a true freshman. So when you're looking at evals and how he's done on the recruiting trail up to this point, those questions about his chops in recruiting, they look a little silly right now on the face of it. Now, these kids got to come in, they got to play, and you truly determine how a guy can eval 2 or 3 years out from whenever he signs these kids. But right now, on the face of it, it looks pretty good.
Let's talk Xavier Atkins, a name for weeks we've kind of been monitoring, and anything there changing?
Well, I don't think there's anything changing. I'm going to go see him play on Friday night. Really good opener between them and Klein Kane. There's a lot of talent on the field on both sides there. And I think Summer Creek as a program is kind of one of the more slept-on ones in Greater Houston. I think they could be pretty good. The problem is they play in that impossible district, which features North Shore and Atascocita, and it's just it's a CE King. It's just a bear of a district. But I think I like what Coach Harrison's got over there at Summer Creek, but Xavier is, I think he's kind of settled into football mode a little bit. He's got a planned commitment early in September, but right now it seems like his focus has just been on getting ready for a senior year. Remember, he moved in, right? So there's been a lot of acclimation period. When you live your whole life in a place and then you move for 1 year, like there's a lot of things that are changing, especially you're going from small country town to the city of Houston. So there's a lot of elements in his life that have changed in the last 12, 18 months. And like just getting acclimated to all that and now getting to play actual football. And I don't think the kid is suffering from any sort of lack of confidence. Like you'd think some guys would be going, man, I'm going from small Louisiana football to the biggest, baddest 6A district in the state of Texas. How am I going to fare? But like Xavier's jumped all in on that kind of stuff. And he's never been a kid that's short on confidence, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play. On the recruiting side, like I said, that decision date's coming up. I think A&M continues to just do a great job with him, the coaching and the recruiting staff, keeping up with him daily. I think A&M's made him feel really comfortable. They've done a great job with the family, and I would expect the Aggies to continue to get a really, really strong look there as he heads into his decision.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with some questions for Bronny on the text line 979-693-1150. Right now, Milliken Reserve Farm-to-Table Community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature. They're committed to treading lightly on the land, and Milliken Reserve is creating a sanctuary for family, nature, and community. It is a great place to go hang out with your family, guys. If you're looking for a new home and relocating here to the Brazos Valley, great place to go check out. But if you're already here or you're visiting, awesome place to go connect with your family for some awesome hiking. You can go canoeing out there. You can go biking. You got kayaking. The equestrian trails are awesome. The evening yoga is great. The summer camps, the music festivals, the farmer markets, and the farm tours. Just an awesome place with a variety of native species that find their homes in those preserved woods. And it's just a cool place to go walk around and see them all. You'll get to see the white-tailed deer. You'll get to see the songbirds, the rabbits, and the turtles. And remember, homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you're going to come back to that same pristine countryside place. The website for more information is millikenreserve.com, millikenreserve.com. And we are back. See that smile?
Like a cold open. Yeah.
News anchor. Hey there. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is Recruiting Country, presented by Caprock Health System. So we did the old switcheroo, Bronny. We had Kennedy Cavan at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. But now...
Hold on. The Elephant sponsoring it now?
Yeah.
Sweet. They got pretty good chicken wings.
Yeah.
And they don't bread them. They just fry them, and you can get them without sauce on them or sauce on the side.
Sauce on the side.
So, like, I enjoy that, especially now with my new diet, which, by the way, I'm really liking. I feel good. I'm waking up and, like, got a little energy, and I've been on a black coffee 90 minutes after you wake up, 90 minutes to 2 hours after you wake up.
You wait to have your coffee.
Yeah, you wait to have your
Start
coffee.
your cycle later.
Yeah. And I have been a big fan of it.
Have you see a lot of that stuff I try?
And you know what? You made me feel good because you told me that, hey, man, like I can tell you're losing weight.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
And my fiance bought me these like golf shorts, and I don't play golf, but they're like going out to do stuff shorts that aren't just coaching shorts. And when she first bought them, they were a little snug, around the butt and stuff. And now I wore them last weekend to go to a concert with Dalton, and a little space in there.
Yeah.
So like, when you start feeling that kind of stuff,
it makes a difference.
Oh yeah, it's super motivating.
It makes you want to keep going.
Yeah, super motivating.
Medium season is going to be coming back because I graduated to large because I gained a little weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was on purpose.
Well, you go through these bulking and cutting phases.
Yeah,
extended bulking and cutting phases.
I've lost 16 pounds, so I'm almost back in the medium phase.
Is it just calories? You're just cutting calories?
Just cutting calories. Yeah. I mean, I'm doing the jiu-jitsu and the kickboxing, right?
Yeah.
But
so you've upped your cardio.
Not really, because I've always done a little bit of cardio.
Yeah, but that's more because you still go to get on the treadmill at the gym.
Yeah, but that's a warm-up. That's 15 minutes. That means nothing. That's nothing.
It's burning calories.
Yeah,
doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah, but as long as I get my 12,000 steps, 10 to 12,000 steps, I'm fine. That's all I need.
Okay.
Jared, talk to us about the questions for Mr. Ryan Brauninger.
Yeah, we got one from Richard in College Station. Says, how many of the number one recruiting class are on the roster this fall?
I don't know.
How many of the number one are on the roster?
I can tell you the guys that have left. That 4 of them have either been kicked off of their next school or suspended from their next school. So take of that what you will.
And then Anthony Lucas to USC.
PJ Williams to SMU.
SMU, yep.
So there's 6. I don't know. I had to go look. You can count. All you got to do is Google that thing, Texas A&M 2022 recruiting class, then Google Texas A&M football 2023 roster, and you can do
mix
it.
And match.
There are at least 6 less.
There are sites, too, that have, like you can Google it, and it'll say people in and out from your team. So what else, Jared?
And then, Bronny, do you expect the Ags to take any more defensive line commits?
Yeah, I think they will, and I think they're scouring the country. They're in it with Dominic McKinley, although that one feels like it's going elsewhere. That's another kid similar to Blake Ivy, though, that has really kept a tight lid on the information that's coming out of the recruitment. Aiden Breland in California is a kid that they're really hard after. Zena Umozalu out of Allen, who Jason will see on Friday night, was a surprise visitor to the pool party. And A&M had thought to be way out on him. All the signs pointed to Oklahoma there. Now the Oklahoma and Texas, and then now the Aggies are kind of back in the picture. So, and Nigel Smith at Melissa is another kid out of Dallas that Jason reported there's some Oklahoma momentum there, but that's a kid that A&M's been after for quite a while too. And I know Nigel's got really close ties to people on campus, and as well as the A&M coaching and recruiting staff.
Jared?
Final one, is the Jordan kid from Oklahoma a possibility at cornerback?
Yeah, that's who Jason's going to see on tomorrow night. And that's the kid that we haven't talked a lot about. So, and that's one of the reasons why Jason's going to see him. I want to see how he plays and his movement patterns and what does he look like as a player, but then also talk to him about kind of where his head's at in terms of the recruiting. Who knows? At corner, A&M's still after Bussey and Kobe Black. But after that, it's kind of a mystery of like who would be the next guys up if they don't land one of those two. And those guys are going to have spots regardless of whoever else they take because they're those kind of players. But I'm super intrigued to see what Jason gets out of that kid in Tulsa too.
All right, Brian, one of the things I know that you wanted to talk about was the presence in the Metroplex and how A&M needs to step up the game.
Well, yeah, when you just look at the recruiting, Jason and I were actually talking about this in one of our just regular conversations, and we mentioned it on the TexAgs High School Football Show, which will presented by Academy, which will start tomorrow, week 1 preview of the state. But like, you know, Jason's looking at taking some out-of-state trips because A&M is recruiting a lot of guys out of state. You know, he just wrapped up that tour of Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. But he's also maybe potentially looking at going to the Northeast to see Jalen Hornsby and Miles O'Neill and guys up there. And it's just kind of weird that A&M doesn't have a lot of presence in Dallas in the class of 24. Now, they're after some guys up there. I just mentioned Zena and Nigel. They're the 25s. There's a handful of them in 25, but there's not a lot of 24 presence. And that's coming off a recruiting class last year where I think just Javon Thomas was from Dallas that they signed. And so that's 2 classes in a row where you're going to be pretty thin in the Metroplex. I just think that that's a conversation that the recruiting staff or the people over there need to look at and go, all right, how do we increase our presence in Dallas? Because, yeah, you can go get the best players in Houston every year. It's going to be a battle, but you can do it. But I don't think you can put the best roster together at Texas A&M without trying to go get the best players in Dallas as well.
Bronny, is there some names out there that you think, yeah, this guy and this guy are going to be some risers this year once we see them, the work that they've put in?
Miles O'Neill. Have you seen the videos coming out from that kid?
Tell me more.
He's posted some like preseason. I guess they get started a little bit later up there. Yeah. He's posted some workout videos, and again, it's just a private workout, so who really knows? But just the raw arm talent has been extremely impressive. I know one of the national services has kind of caught up on him in terms of his rating. I think he's poised for a big jump across multiple services if he plays, and he's also jumping up in a big way in level of competition, moving from Massachusetts to that school in New Jersey. But if he plays at the level of his talent, then people are going to go, man, this might be a top 5 quarterback in the country.
Yeah.
Just based on his raw skill set. And also, that's not to throw, any fire on A.J. Maddox either, because the video that we've seen from him recently, he's making big jumps too. So A&M took 2 kids at quarterback early in the cycle where they weren't really, they weren't super highly recruited. They had some good offers, but they weren't super highly recruited in terms of staff. Outside of that, let me think. They got good players in this class. Gabriel Relaford, for sure.
Yeah.
You look at some of his early season scrimmage tape and combine that with what he did as a junior at Evangel there in Shreveport, and you got to be really excited about what A&M did. He's not a super tall guy, but he's got a great wingspan, and he is super quick, super quick. Almost reminds me. It's not the same, but it's similar to Albert Regis in that a little bit smaller frame, but really long arms. So Albert Regis blocked 2 kicks last year because of his wingspan, and it's super twitchy. Could play on the outside, could play on the inside, could, depending on what his body does, could stand up and rush the passer as well. So there's a lot of versatility with him, and I think he's poised for a huge season too.
Thank you, Bronny.
Thank you.
That is Recruiting Country, brought to you by Caprock Health System. When we come back, Tom Schuberth, our basketball resident expert, he'll be joining us here to talk a little bit about the trip to the Bahamas, how A&M basketball is getting ready for the upcoming year. We got to do a little basketball before football gets into full swing here in a few days. Right now, Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. If you have purchased a vehicle there from Caldwell Country, then what you're hearing me say right now, you're like, yeah, I knew that. I knew that because Gabe told me. I knew that because David told me. It's just a place to go that they're going to help you out every step of the process. That is what they do. They're a great company with fine people. They're involved in the community, and they help support many clubs and charitable organizations here in the Bryan-College Station area. It is a wonderful place to go, and if you are in the market, you start your search there, because online you'll get to see all the great specials. And then when you go in person, you'll see this awesome customer service. You buy the vehicle at the right price with the right trade-in value. Then you get the incredible customer service for your service, right? They've got complimentary pickup for all their service customers and pickup. So it's just awesome what they do there. And remember, it's not a far drive. We're talking about 15 minutes, Braun and Caldwell, a short conversation away But you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with our friends there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. All right, a little basketball time here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Tom Schuberth with us, going to be helping us out a lot during basketball season. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great, David.
Let's remind the audience. You've coached so many places. Just kind of give us the rundown again.
Well, it'd be the whole show if I had to give all the schools. But some of the prominent ones, I was at the University of Memphis, University of Central Florida, UAB, Louisiana Monroe. 9 different Division I schools, bounced around because of professional advancement, and then sometimes they said they were going to go in a different direction. So many coaches are aware of that.
And a little experience with those Globetrotters, huh?
Correct. I got paid to lose games, which is very unique. I coached a team called the Washington Generals. I did that for about 3 seasons, and that's the team that plays the Globetrotters every night. And it's really more of a show than a game. They don't publicize that, but you would not see the Washington Generals win unless the coach is ready to call it quits and the players are ready to go home.
Did you coach them to make it interesting, though? Like, did you want the game, or was it like it's all about what the Globetrotters do?
No, absolutely. You wanted to be competitive and to look good, and particularly when you're overseas. People overseas have a different perspective of U.S. basketball, so they wanted it more realistic. Maybe they didn't understand the jokes and what they call the reams as much as the people in the States because they're more familiar. But, yeah, you wanted to have a good game and a good show. But I don't ever remember a time when a fan didn't walk out of there, with a smile on their face and having a good experience, particularly the young people, the children.
What if the Globetrotters were having a bad day? All right, they went out partying the night before. They're missing shots. Do you have to find a way to get, open up the lane? Well, what do you do?
Absolutely. They do have bad days, and that's when you play every day, sometimes twice a day, you're going to struggle. And they do have nights where, maybe they've gone out or they've traveled for a long period of time. But you do try to help them. You might turn the ball over when you're not supposed to, or make sure they make the basket. Even when it's place set up, occasionally they'll miss a layup or miss an easy shot. You've got to make sure they get it in the basket so the next play can take place.
All right, Tom, let's talk about this Aggie basketball team. I know you followed their action there from the Bahamas. First off, John Rothstein, he does a great job for College Hoops Today. He has Wade Taylor named first team All-SEC and Player of the Year candidate there. Just that's the kind of player he is, right?
Correct. What's interesting about that? That's, Wade a year ago was probably an unknown. His teammates knew him, some of the opponents in the SEC, but nationally, he was just another basketball player. Now everybody in the country knows him, particularly in the SEC, so it's going to be a different avenue for him. He's going to really have to, step up and make sure he's focused.
Combine that with the super senior that is Boots. Are we talking about not only one of the top backcourts in the SEC, which they already were, are we talking about one of the best backcourts in the country?
I think so. Again, we talked about it on the last show about productivity. Sometimes guys have highlights and they're fun to watch, but you look at what Boots and Wade have done together, how productive they are, lack of turnovers, getting other people involved. I mean, Wade's not just a great shooter and scorer. He distributes the ball, and he doesn't turn it over, and he puts pressure on the defense every time. So they have a chance to be the best backcourt in the country, and that's exciting.
For Boots, what does he need to do this year to enhance his chances of playing, at the next level?
That's a great question, David. I talking to some of the NBA scouts, Boots may be the number one prospect as far as an NBA player, even over Wade, because he's got a little more size. He's unique, as we talked about. I don't know what the coaches would say, but to me, Boots is maybe the best defender on the team because he's so active and he's long and he makes so many great decisions defensively with going for steals at the right time. So I think right now he's on the NBA radar, according to my NBA people that have looked at him. So they like him.
G League NBA or
I think G League. It's very difficult to predict who's going to start out right in the league unless they're maybe the top 4 or 5 guys or have that potential with the size. But I think he has a chance, both of those guys and several other guys. I know you and I talked about Julius Marble. I think he's an NBA prospect. I really do. His father played in the NBA, and I think he's getting better every day. I don't know if you've heard, but he's lost 20 pounds this summer. And for me, for him to lose 20 pounds, I don't know how he could do it, because to me, it was like
he was already rocked up,
yeah,
right?
it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger already. So I know
he's lost 20 pounds.
He has. You know, the coaches told me, and one of the reasons he did it, you know, and it takes a lot of dedication. He wants to be able to guard multi positions. He does now, but maybe guard that, you know, that point guard or swing player where he can move his feet a little bit better. He hasn't lost any strength, but he's definitely moving his feet.
That's
better.
important, right? Like, I mean, when you lose weight and you are a big like that, you know, you want to play at the 4 spot. You want to be able to keep that strength and not just get smaller and be more of a 3.
Absolutely. As you know, he played in the Big Ten. So in the Big Ten, they're trying to put weight on you. SEC and some of the more athletic conferences, they're trying to lean you up so you can be more active. And the perfect player in college is a guy that can basically guard all 5 positions, and Julius is one of the guys that can do that.
When do you see them starting training? What's kind of their...
I think they give them the first couple of weeks to get acclimated and get used to being back in class, and then they go through their boot camp. And from what I've heard, I haven't seen it, but I've watched videos. I've talked to the coaches. I've talked to some of the ex-players. It's like it's worse than the Marines. So, you know, some of these guys, you never know, may fall out of it.
Yeah.
But, it'll be an exciting time for them.
What was the importance of this Bahamas trip, and then you know, beyond the team bonding? What did they learn about themselves? What was the importance?
You know, I think it's several things. Number one, I think the coaches use it as a reward to the players, you know, for saying, hey, thanks for the commitment you made last year. I mean, I don't know of anybody that doesn't like to travel, and particularly to go to a place like a tropical paradise like the Bahamas. You know, the saying is everything's better in the Bahamas, and I'm sure it is. I've been there before, and it's nice. But the other thing is the NCAA allows you to go once every 4 years, and when they implemented that, they were thinking, you know, they'd give every recruiting class a chance to go at least once. Now I'm sure there's guys that have gone on 2 or 3 with the NIL and all the things that with COVID. But it's to get your team better. And again, I think the biggest thing is team bonding. I don't think a coach looks at his record at the end of the summer tour and says, wow, we went 2-1 or 3-0 or 1-2. They just want to get better and make sure the players enjoy themselves, and the families. You know, I think it's a great trip for the families. I know the coaches were able to take their wives and their children. So it's an awesome opportunity for everybody to have a good time.
I remember Buzz a couple weeks back at our preseason kickoff event talking about, like, that wasn't his thing before. He didn't like the idea of leaving and leaving the country. He wanted to work from here, but he's evolved a little bit because he does see some value there.
Sure. Well, he works them so hard, but, you know, the unique thing about it, I think the players that are in the program, obviously, and the ones they recruit already know that. So when you get a player that commits to Texas A&M, they know what they're getting into. And I don't care how committed you are, like a Julius Marble losing 20 pounds, which is amazing, but you need a break. And that's the unique thing about college basketball, college athletics in general. David, I remember the time when the players had to get a storage unit for 3 months because they had to, you know, they didn't want to drag all their stuff home if they lived out of state. And then they came back and, you know, put it back in their dorm room or apartment. Now it's a 12-month-a-year, you know, commitment.
Yes,
and that's hard. I mean, people think it's easy. But you do anything for 12 months. If you're, you know, eating ice cream and lobster every day, you get tired of it. So these guys need a break, and I think it's refreshing. And, again, in my experience, I've never known anybody that's gone on a foreign tour and a coach, player, spouse, and hasn't had a wonderful time.
Anything new on Henry Coleman? You mentioned the weight loss for Julius Marble. What are you hearing about Henry?
I haven't heard any significant changes to his body, but I know Henry's being a great leader. You know, the thing that impressed me, your first impression when you see a player leave a place like Duke, you know, what's wrong with him? You know, why didn't he work out? But when I've heard this young man on his interviews and just listened to him talk to his teammates, what a great leader. He understands that he walks the walk, and he's a guy that I think they're going to rely on heavily. And that's what I think makes this team so unique. The guards are probably going to get the most publicity. You know, you kidded me about liking Julius Marble, and I saw his evolution of becoming now a total team player. And then you got Henry, and then other guys, you know, that are going to step up and be great role players to make this team super successful.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of the new players and how they could be interwoven, whatever the word, how they'll be integrated into the team. Eli Lawrence, Jace Carter, Wildens Levesque, I believe it's pronounced.
Correct.
Tell me how you see them kind of fitting in, because somebody needs to kind of fill that Dexter Dennis role, right? Somebody's got to be that defensive stopper.
Correct. And talking to the coaches, they haven't found that answer yet, and I don't think they ever will have a definitive player to do that. And that's what I think makes these guys so unique, is that in recruiting, they're pieces of the puzzle. And to me, the programs that look for that are the programs that have succeeded and are where they need to be. I know fans get excited when you have a great recruiting class, you sign these 5-star players, and it sounds wonderful. But the great programs, when they already have a good team, and we have 4 starters back from a team that won 15 conference games, that's hard. So they're hopefully those 4 guys will start, but they may not. So they've got to find 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 guys to fill that void of the starter we lost, and then enhance the guys that are out on the court. So it could be any one of those 3 to 4 guys, and that's why I think A&M has a great opportunity to be successful, because the coaches know that they didn't necessarily have to go out and get a superstar. They needed someone that can make the ball club better.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So in your opinion, this team, 15 wins in conference, that seems very difficult to do again, replicate it. But you can be a better team and not have the same kind of conference record, correct?
I think so. I think we talked about that earlier, and I think they see that, and I think they feel that. You know, based on their success in the Bahamas and their practices during the summer, they feel like this is the best team they've had, obviously, since Buzz has been here. It could be the best team ever, you know, and again, a lot depends on how, the breaks you get during the schedule and things like that. But I do know the schedule has been stepped up immensely, so it's going to give us some tests early and see how good we can be.
Let's get Jared a chance to ask a question. Jared, I know you had something you want to ask Mr. Schuberth.
Yeah, I had a question just as your coach yourself. So how do you think the culture that Buzz Williams created here has kind of attributed to our recent success, and how much control do you think coaches really have on outcomes in games?
Great questions. First of all, the culture. I think Buzz has created the perfect culture for college basketball. I think that's the biggest struggle with the new regime, in that coaches are trying to figure out how the players with the NIL, with the immediate transfer, how to put together a team. So with Buzz's culture, the kids already know what they're coming into. I say kids, young men, they know what they're getting into. So he's all about being successful and being the best you can. And again, he teaches what he preaches. You know, they're not out there just going through the motions. They're working harder than any college basketball team in the country. And then I do think a coach has the outcome on the program. I think it's done during the preseason, the off season, and then during practice. And once you're able to work with the players and get them in position, then it's up to them. You know, I don't know if any coach has ever made a shot or made a great pass, but when you get them prepared and they go through that every day, they're going to be ready to perform on the court.
How surprising has it been to see, or maybe it isn't surprising, some of these legendary coaches, national championship coaches in all sports, but really we've seen a lot of it in college basketball, walk away from the game. Jay Wright walking away early, I think. Coach K, I mean, he had been doing it for a minute, so we understand that. But because of some of the changes in college sports?
I think it comes just what we talked about, the frustration with the new rules and what the college game has gone to. It's not college anymore. It's really professional, you know. And so the guys are getting paid, which is fine in the young ladies, and that's what the NCAA is allowing now. So you have to adapt to that. But I think so many of them are frustrated, and they, rather than fight it, and they've already had a great career, and, you know, they're probably financially secure, they just step away. Now, you may see one or two come back into it.
Yep.
You know, I don't think Bob Huggins is through coaching, even though they've asked him to walk away from West Virginia. I think you see him resurface, because some of them, that's the only thing they know. But I think it's an opportunity for these young coaches to step in and learn the system, and then hopefully be as successful as some of the guys that are legends.
Tom, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with some final text messages and some thoughts here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Look at Sean doing work at the mothership. We've had a lot of different songs. Nick, are you still adding to the collection?
I haven't in a while, no, but, I mean, again, 600. That's a lot of shows.
Well, that's a lot, but we can keep adding to it.
Of course.
I mean,
what would you like me to add? And don't say Zach Bryan.
I would like more Zach Bryan, and I think
Okay.
Cade would agree with me. And
Cade.
excuse me, Cade. Jared would agree with me.
I respect that decision, David.
You like Zach Bryan?
And Childers, Stapleton in there.
Little kids, yeah. Do we have Stapleton on there?
I believe there are a couple songs.
Okay. Anybody else?
Whiskey Myers.
That's already on there.
We got some whiskey on there.
Treaty Oak Revival.
That is not on there.
And Flatland Cavalry.
That's on there.
Okay. Yeah. You know, as I've told the people, it's not my choice.
Mr. Nickname. Country. Are you going to get into that again, David?
Well, it's not my choice. This is what the people have called me.
No. It was your choice.
No. I mean, all of a sudden, be like, "Hey, there's Mr. Country." I was at HEB the other day, and they stopped me. They didn't say you're the guy from Texas. They said,
I think
Mr. Country
they
Music.
called you that because you named yourself Mr. Country Music.
No, that's not how I remember it. That's not how I remember it.
Nick, you're gonna back me up on this?
Nick, you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure David's Mr. Country Music there, Jared.
Okay. That's what happens when interns on this show think that they can be smarter and tougher and funnier than the host and the producer. It just doesn't work out. All right. Nick and I have joined. We're like an alliance. We're not like an alliance like the Big Ten and the ACC, but more like, Pac-12. More like the mega powers, like Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man Savage.
Sure.
I'm more Macho
Man. We're like, since you were talking about Transformers earlier, we're like Devastator. We're like two Transformers that combine into a bigger one.
That's pretty good.
You like that?
I didn't even know who Devastator was. I know Optimus Prime.
I like Transformers, so.
Good for you. The movie's not so good.
The newer ones or like the cartoon one?
The newer ones. The cartoon was really good back in the day.
That one in the 80s is awesome because everyone got killed and they're just like, whoa, that's crazy.
We didn't do one college football thing in this last segment, so somebody give me something college football-y before we end. Jared?
Games start this weekend, week 0.
Okay, that was obvious.
Okay, well, what else did you want me to say, David?
You know, Caleb Williams is favored to win the Heisman, and will he be able to do it again, David?
I don't care. I don't think
I think it's going to be a little disappointing that it's going to be tough to watch that USC game because it's on the Pac-12 network, and I can't remember which is the primetime ESPN game, but it's like not the ideal game. But anyway, it's going to be fun to have college football back.
That's going to do it for TexAgs Radio. Tomorrow on the program, Stephen McGee, Bubba Bean, Aaron Torres, DeMondre Moore, The Fan Show, and more. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We will see you all mañana.